Chapter 4398.
With a burst of excitement, the middle-aged man stared at the stone tablet in his hand and suddenly frowned. As expected of a technique from the time of creation, the minimum requirement to practice it is the physical strength of 1,000,000 worlds. In today's world, there are very few people who have the power of 1,000,000 worlds. But it doesn't matter. After I go, I will cultivate my physical body and strive to reach the power of 1,000,000 worlds as soon as possible.
You don't have the power of 1,000,000 worlds, but I do. Let me practice it.
But at this moment, a cold shout suddenly came, and then a strong wind whistled, and a figure rushed toward the middle-aged man.
This sudden change also made the middle-aged man's expression change, but he was still the Holy Spirit of the Spirit Kingdom.
With a clap of his right hand, a sword flew out from behind him and slashed fiercely at the newcomer.
Wind-seeking stance.
A strong wind gathered, mixed with the terrifying power of the gods, and it was as if the sea was overturned. As soon as the sword was unleashed, it was fearless. After the sword was unleashed, the bottom of the holy spring was not affected at all. Instead, strong winds tore the void apart.
The third stage.
However, a low and deep sound came from the bottom of the water. Soon after, a gray-robed man quickly leaped forward. He was not afraid of being torn apart by the wild wind.
He approached the middle-aged man with the yin-yang face.
With a grab of his hand, he suddenly grabbed one of the stone tablets.
Oh no!
The middle-aged man narrowed his eyes because he did not expect that the mysterious person who suddenly appeared was so strong that he dared to resist his wind-seeking stance. It should be known that there were very few gods in the early stage of the lower god realm who could resist his sword. It was also because this sword carried the charm of the great way of wind.
What a strong defense, but you want to take my treasure. Dream on.
However, the middle-aged man was also very strong.
He shouted angrily, and the yin-yang faces suddenly bloomed with light.
In the light, one of the divine thoughts and the other of the demonic thoughts rushed toward Lin Ling. This was a 10th stage lower god embryo, and the limit was the level of a middle god.
Come out!
Sensing a terrible force coming toward him, Lin Ling shouted in a low voice, and the 7 divine embryos all bloomed at this moment. The 2 dragons roared, the chaos swallowed heaven and earth, the evil spirits stirred up life and death, the human king ruled the world, the thunder god calmed the wind and rain, and the Vajra guarded the center. The 7 divine embryos appeared at the same time and immediately resisted the great way of yin and yang.
Lin Ling's left hand didn't stop. He grabbed another stone tablet without hesitation. That stone tablet recorded the information of the new world will host. Who are you? Seeing that his talent did not gain the upper hand of his 2 extremes and 3 questions, asking thunder style. As soon as this sword appeared, lightning erupted. The power of a god actually reached the 8,000 level. After all, this person was merely an early-stage low god, yet his strength was comparable to a mid-stage low god. This clearly showed how formidable he was. Seeing this, Lin Ling clasped his hands together, and lightning spat out from his hands. When the sword shot toward him, it quickly caught the terrifying sword. Almost at the same time, the small kunlun on his arm swam out and wrapped around one of the stone tablets. When it was about to wrap around the second stone tablet, a strange eye suddenly opened on the forehead of the middle-aged man with the yin-yang face. Countless small swords shot out from the eye, and these small swords looked like a single line. The speed of these small swords reached 300,000 world speed. 2 polls, 3 questions, lightning questioning. Obviously, he was paying more attention to Lin Ling, and did not dare to underestimate Lin Ling anymore. Thousands of swords as thick as fingers shot toward him, forcing the little kunlun to give up on the other stone tablet. Seal. In this short exchange, Lin Ling also knew how strong this person was. Probably not even an early lower god could match him, and he was much stronger than those immortal spirit nation. This spirit nation was indeed full of experts. The stairs of wisdom came out in a mighty manner, causing all the swords that were shooting towards him to freeze in place. However, the divine energy of these swords was beyond imagination. Therefore, they were only slowed down, and could not be sealed by Lin Ling. This made Lin Ling shocked again. Because after coming to the Earrock's cave, the step of wisdom had helped Lin Ling escape many times. But today, it was the first time that the seal failed. But compared to Lin Ling, the middle-aged man with the yin-yang face was even more astonished. This was because his lightning querying style came from a secret realm in the divine world,
and it took him 30,000 years to comprehend it. It was also his trump card, and it had always been used to slay gods. It could even easily kill mid-stage low gods. But facing an early lower god junior, he did not have the slightest advantage. I've heard that the Xueqi cave attracted countless gods and experts. I didn't believe it at first, but now I do. I'm afraid that this young man is even stronger than the sage progenitor. Only the young chief of the Ox Devil clan could stand up to him. But who is he? Several thoughts flashed through the middle-aged man's mind. Rumble! At this moment, a roar came from the stone platform behind him, as if something had been awakened. The vines that had wrapped around the iron box moved at this moment, as if they were dancing tentacles. Oh no! The mother of the 72 cave masters has woken up. Sensing this, the middle-aged man's expression changed instantly. He knew that he could not stay here for long. However, when he looked at Lin Ling again, Lin Ling had disappeared. Bastard! The middle-aged man roared, and with countless tiny electric swords, he rushed back the way he had come. Rumble! But at this moment, a fist came from above. Although the divine energy seemed to be only at the level of 6,000, the divine energy was terrifying, and it was mixed with unparalleled physical strength. At least 1,000,000 worlds of energy. The middle-aged man raised his head, and his eyes trembled. He was not shocked by the strength of the fist, but by the physical strength of someone who had exceeded 1,000,000 worlds of energy. Oh no, Pangu's strike! He instantly thought of the premise of practicing Pangu's strike, which was to have a physical strength of 1,000,000 worlds. It turned out that the gray-robed young man had already planned this. Rumble! The fist came down and destroyed a large number of rocks. However, the middle-aged man snorted coldly, and immediately, countless thin swords shot out and turned the hard rocks into dust. Then, he wanted to rush up and catch up with Lin Ling. However, at this moment, a tentacle-like vine shot out and wrapped around his leg. Damn it! This sudden change undoubtedly made the middle-aged man's heart skip a beat. He knew that the thing that bound him must be the awakened cave master demon mother. The gray-robed young man's fist was not an attack at all. The purpose was to tie him up and let him face the awakening of cave master demon mother. One had to know that there were 72 cave masters in this vast and boundless cavern. Some of them were extremely powerful and comparable to gods. Normally, these cave masters were in a deep slumber. Once they woke up, a calamity would definitely befall them. Chapter 4399. But now, not only did he not obtain anything, he had even eaten a mouthful of dust. This hatred was comparable to the hatred of killing one's father. Most importantly, he still did not know who that person was. Gulyalu! On the other side, Lin Ling was rushing up the holy spring with an anxious expression because there were two experts below who were about to catch up. Especially the vine-like cave master. Lin Ling could feel that he was very, very strong. Of course, although it was dangerous, the rewards were not bad. He had obtained an ancient stone tablet. As for the other stone tablet, although Lin Ling did not obtain it, it was a rune that recorded the world will host. Lin Ling had already memorized it with his soul force. As long as he passed it to the giant ghost, he would know what to do next. Who was this world will host? Therefore, the remaining stone tablet was dispensable to Lin Ling. Boom! A moment later, Lin Ling rushed out of the holy spring. He looked around and realized that the battle outside the holy spring was also very intense. However, the spirit kingdom side could not withstand the attacks of the light golden dragon and was retreating. The remaining Xiao heir and the rest were frantically collecting the holy spring. Lin Ling. Seeing Lin Ling rush out, Xiao heir and the rest were overjoyed. Even the giant shadow that hated Lin Ling smiled. Although they had grudges with Lin Ling, they were still on Lin Ling's side in front of the spirit kingdom's great enemy. Moreover, their grudges with Lin Ling were not life and death grudges. Hurry up, don't take the rest of the holy spring. When Lin Ling saw that most of the holy spring had been collected, he immediately flew toward the radiant golden dragon. In mid-air, he threw a punch at it. Lin Ling, you too are bullying me. Among the spirit kingdom's experts present, Han Xie was undoubtedly the strongest. Seeing Lin Ling's sneak attack, he cursed angrily. However, Lin Ling sneered. He didn't need to give any face to Han Xie, so he didn't stop punching. Instead, he sped up. Right now, he was still in his gray robe state. That level of strength was naturally not something that Han Xie could block. Boom! Han Xie's heart violently beat. He also erupted with all his strength, wanting to block Lin Ling's punch. However, after the collision, a terrifying force impacted the entire cave, causing it to seem as if it was about to collapse. Then, Han Xie's right arm was blown to smithereens by the punch. You've become a god. After being injured, Han Xie kept retreating as he cried out in shock. During the battle on the island of Ling Nation, Lin Ling was not a deity at that time. Instead, he became a deity in the Dragon Palace after the battle. Therefore, Han Xie did not know about this at all. However, back then, Lin Ling had slaughtered everyone on the island of Ling Nation with the strength of a peak martial god. Now that he had become a deity, his strength was naturally beyond imagination. At that moment, Han Xie was filled with both hatred and fear. He hated that Lin Ling had become stronger and had always been above his head. He was afraid because after becoming stronger, Lin Ling had joined forces with the bright golden dragon. How could he resist? Where's Lord Yi? Where's Lord Yi? He thought of the middle-aged man with the yin-yang face and felt anxious. However, after Lin Ling heavily injured Han Xie, he pondered for a moment and ordered the bright golden dragon to retreat immediately. After all, although he wanted to kill Han Xie, this person was very powerful. He didn't know what divine ability he had that allowed him to resurrect. Therefore, he might not be able to kill him this time. If he wasted too much time and waited for the experts in the divine spring to come out, the consequences would be unimaginable. Running after snatching the treasure, this was the principle that Lin Ling had honed over the years. There are still 2 more divine springs. Don't we want them? Seeing that Lin Ling was about to leave, Luo Shen and the others were reluctant to part with him. No! Lin Ling took the lead and rushed into one of the caves. When the bright golden dragon and the others saw this, they immediately felt that something was wrong and quickly followed behind. Rumble! When they left, they also stirred up a mess at the entrance of the cave. After they left for the time it took 3 incense sticks to burn, the ground exploded open, and a figure in a sorry state charged out. He was covered in blood and was covered in injuries. Moreover, his long hair was disheveled, and Han Xie and the others were almost unable to recognize him. Naturally, he was the middle-aged man with the yin-yang face. Who was that person just now? Where did he run off to? After rushing out, the middle-aged man with the yin-yang face looked around and immediately knew that the gray-robed youth had an accomplice. As a result, Han Xie and the others didn't get any advantage. He went that way. The person just now was Lin Ling. Han Xie quickly said, Lin Ling? He's Lin Ling, one of the top 10 enemies of the Spirit Nation? The Lei Gong of the 4 great gods Lei Gong Hall? Hearing this, the middle-aged man with the yin-yang face was stunned and then became furious. No wonder he's so powerful. He has a strong background. Go after him. After speaking, he turned into a bolt of lightning and shot towards the cave that Lin Ling had rushed out of. His face was full of yin and yang and it was gloomy. Han Xie and the others were stunned and didn't want to chase after Lin Ling. This was because they felt that even if they caught up with him, Master Yi might not be able to kill Lin Ling in his current state. They also couldn't suppress the bright golden dragon and the others. Therefore, the outcome would still be miserable. Rumble! But at that moment, a gigantic tentacle rushed out from the divine spring where the middle-aged man had rushed out. The surface of the tentacle was covered in mucus, and it was constantly spewing out poisonous smoke. The entire cave was rapidly corroded by the poisonous smoke, turning it moist. Upon closer inspection, the cave had unknowingly become a monster's stomach. It was constantly squirming and it was very terrifying. What a powerful method. He has unknowingly set up a world. This must be the divine stairs. Hurry up and leave. That's the cave Lord Demon Mother. She's very strong and we can't fight against her. In the distance, the middle-aged man with the yin-yang face's voice floated over. Han Xie and the others were sweating profusely and immediately chased after the middle-aged man. Moreover, they hated Lin Ling because they had found the treasure with great difficulty. However, in the end, they didn't get anything. Instead, they were in a situation where they were being chased. Share the holy spring. At this moment, in the cave, Lin Ling led the others and rushed forward quickly. Then Lin Ling spoke. Lin Ling, how about 20 holy springs? We have a total of 110. Luo Shen immediately said. Although Lin Ling had taken more, they all knew that Lin Ling had suppressed the strongest middle-aged man with the yin-yang face. Without Lin Ling, they wouldn't even get a single hair. Lin Ling didn't argue and immediately took the 20 holy springs. This was because he had a feeling that it would be very chaotic later. At that time, if everyone was separated, it would be difficult for him, Lin Ling, to get the holy springs. Bang! 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 At this moment, the sound of heaven and earth shattering suddenly came from the front, causing the entire cave to shake. What happened? Did they catch up? Chapter 4400. What? Hearing Lin Ling's words, everyone could not believe their ears. Don't worry about that. Speed up and charge forward. Lin Ling did not know where these mad bulls came from, but he could feel that they were terrifying. Not only were they terrifying, but they were also unafraid of death. This was because Lin Ling's soul force could sense that these mad bulls had smashed through a large number of caves. It was as if in the eyes of these mad bulls, this was not a cave, but a vast plain. Of course, along the way, many demons were crushed to death. Even if they did not die, they were trampled to death. Boom! Not long after Lin Ling and the others ran, the cave wall on the left finally cracked. Then the first mad bull came out. At a closer look, this bull was as huge as a small mountain. It was covered in iron armor and its 4 limbs were blood red in color. With a heavy stomp, it seemed to carry the power of 500,000 worlds. The bull's horns were like heavy swords. They could split mountains and seas, break through the void, as if they were tofu. Looking at the eyes under the bull's horns, they were red and constantly emitted smoke. Obviously, these bulls had gone mad and had lost their minds. They only wanted to trample all the obstacles in their way to death. It's that blue-haired man. Lin Ling made a guess after dodging the first mad bull. After all, the demons controlled by the 72 cave masters were different. Only the Ox Demon clan controlled demons that were similar to the Ox Demons. Boom! At this time, the cave wall in front of them cracked again. A mad bull came from the left and charged at Lin Ling. Die! At this time, Lin Ling did not care about hiding his strength. He finally unsheathed the tyrant's song. Clenching his 5 fingers, Lin Ling slashed out fiercely. Boom! This sword also cut the mad bull into 2 halves. A large amount of blood spilled out and landed on the ground. It was actually continuously emitting water vapor. It was very mysterious. So fierce. Seeing this, Hero Luo and the rest gasped. Although they already knew that Lin Ling's strength was extraordinary, they were still shocked when they saw with their own eyes that Lin Ling killed a cow as if he was cutting vegetables. Everyone, leave it to fate. It's best not to get close to me. Then, Lin Ling shouted to everyone. He felt that these mad bulls came for him, so it was more dangerous to get close to him. Rumble! At the same time, the rock wall on the left began to peel off in large chunks. A large number of mad bulls began to appear, charging out wildly. This also caused Lin Ling and Luoshan to separate. The scene was extremely chaotic. Die! Lin Ling held the Tyrant Song sword in his hand as a sea of blood surged. His killing intent soared to the heavens as he continuously killed the mad bulls that approached him. At the same time, he increased his speed and charged forward. The mad devil bull's goal was indeed Lin Ling, so even more mad devil bulls chased after Lin Ling. Luoshan and the others were only facing a small portion of them. At that moment, the cave was torn open by a pair of large hands. Then, a giant appeared and chased after Lin Ling. This giant had short hair all over its body. Its muscles were solid, but it had the head of a bull and no eyes. It was very terrifying. Although its speed was not as fast as those mad bulls, it was very obvious that its strength was much stronger. Rumble! Then, more and more minotaur giants rushed out of the cave and chased after Lin Ling as if the sky was falling and the earth was splitting. Behind them, the middle-aged man with the yin-yang face also arrived. However, when they saw the scene in the distance, none of them dared to chase after Lin Ling. They were so scared that their faces turned pale. However, the cave was already in chaos because behind them, a large number of slimy tentacles slithered over like snakes. It was Cave Lord Demon Matriarch. Run! Seeing this, whether it was the middle-aged man with the yin-yang face or the light golden dragon and the others, they all wanted to run in all directions. Of course, Han Xie and the others also wanted to chase after the light golden dragon and the others.
However, there were too many mad bulls, making it difficult for them to get close. I realized that ever since we met Lin Ling, we were either running for our lives or on the road to escape. Luo Shen said helplessly as they ran. Her words made everyone nod in agreement. They had not been in the Xueqi cave for long.
However, they had already experienced the pursuit of the immortal spirit nation and the pursuit of the peacock cave lord.
Now there was the spirit nation, the mad bulls, and the cave lord demon matriarch. The entire Xueqi cave seemed to be in turmoil because of Lin Ling alone. The most speechless thing was that, as the person involved, Lin Ling seemed to be running for his life. However, in reality, he was the calmest. How lively! That was indeed the case. At this moment, Lin Ling realized that his speed was much faster than the mad devil bulls, so he wasn't too worried. He also realized that the third stage of the innate skill fusion could still be used for quite some time. This period of time was enough for him to rush out of the cave. Boom! After an unknown amount of time, Lin Ling successfully rushed out of the cave. He then took out the sound transmission talisman and checked it.
Then, he immediately rushed towards the direction of the camp in the valley.
He had just left when the cave he was in previously exploded. Countless mad demon bulls galloped in the sky and chased after Lin Ling in a grandiose manner. From afar, one could see sand and dust churning. It was an extremely shocking sight. Interesting. Is that blue-haired man jealous? Lin Ling quickly flew through the sky. When he realized that the mad bulls were not giving up, the corners of his mouth curled into a disdainful smile. Found him. Over there. However, at that moment, a murderous voice came from ahead. Looking over, a flood of steel was sweeping over. It was the army of the immortal spirit nation. They're still looking for me? It's been hard on them. Lin Ling was stunned as he stared at the flood of steel rushing over. However, he soon revealed a sinister smile. It was hard enough for the immortal spirit nation to chase after him. In order to reward them, he would give them a herd of mad bulls. Therefore, Lin Ling did not avoid them. Instead, he faced them head-on. In order to hide the mad bulls behind him, Lin Ling also activated the Human King's Flame and the Luai's Lightning, creating a colorful scene. Although Lin Ling knew that the flood of steel in front of him would discover the mad bulls sooner or later, they had suppressed their anger for so many days. Even if they did discover him, they would not take it to heart. I've finally found you. Dang. At that moment, a majestic dragon tiger chariot appeared in front of the flood of steel. On the divine chariot, 3 divine commanders glared angrily at Lin Ling. Their eyes were filled with gloominess and anger as if they were about to swallow him whole. During the few days of searching for Lin Ling, they had already fought several times with the cave masters of the 72 caves. There were countless casualties. If they had not escaped quickly, they would have been completely wiped out.
When they thought about how the army of 500,000 deities had suddenly become more than 100,000, they immediately felt their hearts ache.
They did not know how to answer to the immortal spirit nation. Chapter 4401. However, just as they were getting closer and closer to Lin Ling, a pitch-black ball of mud suddenly shot towards them. It was Lin Ling's final ball of lightning mud. Boom! The mud ball exploded, forming a terrifying thunderstorm that swept out in all directions. However, this time, the 3 divine marshals were not injured because they had already suffered once. Now that they saw Lin Ling throw out the ball of lightning mud, they had already sensed it and activated their strongest defensive abilities, joining forces to block the thunderstorm. Haha, let's see what other tricks you have. Come on, use them all. Haha. Is there only one left? Looks like it's your last trump card. How do you want to die? We'll satisfy you. Haha. Allowing the terrifying lightning to sweep over them, the 3 hid in the divine chariot and shouted crazily. Lin Ling was getting closer and closer to them. He sneered, and at the same time, the lightning and flames behind him began to retract, revealing the mad bulls that were billowing with dust. I've made you wait for so long. To show my respect, I'll give you a big gift. Haha. A soft voice drifted out from Lin Ling's mouth, causing the 3 divine marshals to be stunned. Their gazes finally landed on the raging herd of mad bulls behind them. For a moment, they were all stunned, their eyes trembling. The scene in front of them was simply too shocking. Not only were there mad bulls, but there was also a giant bull demon, which made them feel extremely terrified. Of course, Some things were only shocking on the surface. If they really met force with force, they might not be so strong. The three divine marshals, who had been fighting for many years, knew this best. At some point, they even thought that this was Lin Ling's smokescreen to scare them. However, they still had more than 100,000 soldiers and 3 mid-stage lower gods. Would they be afraid? The answer was no. Very good, Mad Bulls, they look very grand. Haha. I love eating beef the most. Inform the soldiers later that we'll have beef stew tonight. Haha. Braised beef, iron plate beef tendon, and hot and sour beef meatballs are my favorite. Haha. The three divine marshals spoke louder and louder, and in the end, they even laughed loudly. I've loved eating cow feast since I was young. However, there are too few cows. It's not even enough for each of us to have a bite. Behind the three divine marshals, the rolling steel flood also let out thunderous cheers. Their momentum was earth-shattering as they leaped forward with murderous intent. However, Lin Ling's speed did not slow down. He rushed into the flood of steel, and his sword took a life. However, the remaining steel flood army already knew how difficult it was to deal with Lin Ling. So when facing Lin Ling, they maintained a defensive posture, planning to trap and kill Lin Ling one step at a time. And with over 100,000 of them joining forces, their defense was naturally unquestionable. However, while they were fully focused on guarding against Lin Ling, they had missed the mad devilish bull that was charging towards them. Puff! The person on the outermost perimeter was struck by a red-eyed mad demon bull. Its sharp horns pierced through the man's chest, and even his spirit essence could not block the impact of the horns. That person looked at his bloody chest and lowered his head in disbelief. A cow feast! Just as he finished speaking, the mad demon bull swung its head, and his entire body was torn apart. What? Why is there such a powerful bull? This sudden change gave everyone a fright. Boom! However, at this time, another mad demon bull arrived. Its horns were thick and heavy, as if they were going to pierce through the sky. Scram! An expert attacked. A long spear shot out like a meteor toward the mad demon bull. He angrily said, "A cow feast should be a cow feast." Gotcha! However, the mad demon bull crashed into him, and the long spear broke. Even the power of a god could not block the bull's charge. Poochie! The bull crashed between the legs of the person who attacked with the spear, and the sound of an egg breaking quietly rang out. As for the expert whose legs were hit, his face was initially filled with arrogance, but it gradually turned red, and finally turned pale. My eggs! He let out a loud roar, but unfortunately, it was the last sentence he uttered in his life. This was because even more mad demon bulls were charging toward him from behind, and they trampled him into meat paste. Not good. These bulls have very powerful physical strength. This change finally caused the army to react. It was precisely because of their physical strength that they did not realize how terrifying the mad demon bulls were. After all, physical strength could not be compared to world energy and divine energy. If they did not attack, it would be very difficult to get a rough idea of their strength. Bas! Behind the mad demon bulls, an ox-headed giant rushed over with large strides. It waved its fists, and with every punch, beautiful flowers bloomed in the sky, and a bloody mist gushed out. This ox-headed giant was even more terrifying than the mad demon bulls. Judging from its strength, it was probably comparable to a mid-stage lower god. Stop them! The army was alarmed, and they gathered into a human formation to resist the bull formation. Boom! Unfortunately, they could not stop the charge of the mad devil bulls. Countless deities were trampled to death. It was as if these mad devil bulls had lost their minds. They only had one goal in mind, and that was Lin Ling. Therefore, all the obstacles in their way were swept away. This beef is too fierce, isn't it? How am I supposed to eat it? Behind them, the three divine commanders stood dumbfounded on their divine chariots. Their expressions were as if their parents had died. This was because the situation had changed too quickly. In the blink of an eye, their army had been utterly defeated. They had either been trampled to death or rammed to death. Was this the all-bull feast they had imagined? Kill these mad bulls. Lei Gong, let's see what other tricks you have up your sleeve. Seeing that more and more people were dying, the eyes of the three divine commanders turned red. Their army of 500,000 had come to kill Lei Gong, but now, only 100,000 of them were left. They could not swallow this humiliation. Kill! The steel flood's eyes turned red as well. They unleashed all of their power, determined to fight to the death with the mad devil bulls. From their point of view, these mad bulls were definitely Lin Ling's handiwork. Since Lin Ling had already caused the deaths of so many of their people, they had to cut off one of Lin Ling's wings and kill these mad bulls. Time passed quietly. When they looked at Lin Ling again, he had already disappeared into the distance. Not only was he not pursued by the immortal spirits or the hegemony nation, even the mad demon bulls had been blocked. Thank you. Lin Ling smiled and said to the distant sky. Kill. 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 I'll fight you to the death. Boom. 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 In the distant sky, the battle was gradually coming to an end. However, upon closer inspection, the sky was filled with blood. Human flesh and cow limbs were scattered everywhere. It was a catastrophe. Dang. The remaining Minotaur giants were falling one by one. This was because the 3 divine commanders had also made their move. After cutting off the heads of the Minotaur giants, they roared to the sky, venting the anger in their hearts. Come on, Lei Gong. What other tricks do you have? Use them all. Seeing the mad bulls getting weaker and weaker, the white-browed elder's face was covered in blood as he roared in excitement. Chapter 4402. Look, these bulls have already had their limbs cut off, yet they're still crawling. Haha, how pitiful. They stared at the mad Satan bulls that had yet to die and laughed complacently. They realized that these poor bulls were still crawling. Furthermore, they were crawling with great difficulty past the people and into the distance. Something's not right. These bulls don't seem to be hostile towards us. Suddenly, the scholarly divine marshal frowned. Let me try. Someone rushed over and stepped on the mad Satan bull that was crawling. He then realized that the mad Satan bull was completely ignoring him. It was as if it did not see him at all. Once he blocked its path, the mad Satan bull's eyes turned red and it looked as if it was going to fight to the death. Something's not right. It seems to be ignoring us. Yeah, could it be? The people exclaimed as they vaguely guessed what was going on. Could it be that the mad Satan bulls aren't targeting us but Lei Gong? The white-browed elder's pupils constricted as he spoke in disbelief. Silence. The sky suddenly became suffocatingly silent. Everyone's jaws dropped and they almost gave themselves a tight slap. It means that if we don't stop these mad bulls, they can kill the Thunder God with just these mad bulls alone. That seems to be the case. This means that we're helping Lei Gong block the mad Satan bulls. This is so infuriating. After thoroughly thinking it through, the people could no longer care about their injuries and vomited blood in anger. The army of 500,000 was only left with 10 to 20,000 soldiers. However, Lei Gong was still alive. Most importantly, they had volunteered to help Lei Gong block the mad Satan bulls. Report this to the Lord. The scholarly divine marshal said through gritted teeth. Although it was humiliating, he also knew that the losses of the army were beyond imagination. And the reason for all of this was that they had underestimated their enemy. Trash. Not long after, a voice drifted into everyone's ears. The reprimand made everyone shut their mouths. They had lost all face. Of the 9 prefectures void 4 great gods. Your Majesty Lei Gong. Very good, very good. You took the initiative to provoke our immortal spirit hegemony nation. Pass down my order. The army will stop advancing and pursue Lei Gong with all their might. The majestic voice drifted out once again. My lord, I know where he went. A silver iron plate appeared in front of the white-browed elder. It was the fortune divine stone, and it had found out the whereabouts of Lin Ling. On the other side, Lin Ling flew all the way, and gradually, the tranquil valley appeared in front of him. Lord Lei Gong. It was Saint Guyi. He smiled excitedly and spread the news of Lin Ling's return throughout the valley. After a short while, all the experts of the Thunder God Palace also returned. Brother Ling. Calm. Lin Ling looked at everyone and smiled. He glanced around and immediately realized that everyone's strength had improved greatly. Especially the people of the God Slayer Alliance, many of whom had stepped into the ranks of gods. Lin Ling was surprised. We collected treasures nearby and found many treasures for breaking through, so we all broke through smoothly. Yu explained when she saw Lin Ling's surprised expression. Yu, even you broke through.
Our Lei Gong Hall's overall strength has reached a new level. Lin Ling nodded in satisfaction and led the group into the valley. As soon as they landed, he immediately sensed a voice from the pangolin. Lin Ling smiled and replied to the pangolin. Then, he took out a large amount of divine spring and black essence, which shocked everyone. Wow, Lin Ling! Where did you get these treasures? Nanwu Fengyu exclaimed. Lin Ling's harvest alone was comparable to their Lei Gong Hall's harvest. That's the black essence. Young Qilin was also surprised. When they came to the divine realm, they also encountered this kind of black essence. They were very difficult to deal with, so he was surprised at how Lin Ling hunted this kind of black essence. Everyone, take the cultivation treasures you need. Lin Ling smiled and looked at everyone. Now that the Ear-Ox cave was full of experts, the stronger the Lei Gong Hall was, the better it was for Lin Ling and everyone else. Lord Lei Gong, this is not necessary. During this time, our Lei Gong Hall has been exploring the surrounding area and obtained many treasures. These treasures should be left for Lord Lei Gong's cultivation. An old man immediately smiled and looked at Lin Ling. Lin Ling glanced and found that the old man's strength had also increased. This made him nod. This place was indeed the divine realm. There were many more treasures here than in the void of the 9 continents. How about this? I will leave a portion of these treasures to set up a barrier formation. The rest will be used for cultivation. Lin Ling pondered. He had a feeling that after the immortal spirit hegemony nation suffered such a big loss, they would definitely come back. So, it was better to set up a powerful barrier formation to welcome them. Moreover, there were too many experts in the Ear-Ox cave. One more safe place to set up camp would be much safer. Then, Lin Ling gave the order for the crowd to continue searching for treasures in the vicinity. As for Lin Ling, he began to set up a grand spirit formation. In order to set up a powerful barrier formation, treasures were indispensable. Without rare treasures to provide the source of power, no barrier formation could last for long. Unfortunately, the universal Qing Tian formation was left in Lei Gong Hall. Otherwise, Lin Ling would not have to go through so much trouble. This formation is for defense. After all, an offensive formation requires more treasures. Lin Ling closed his eyes slightly. His soul power shrouded the entire valley. Then, he sprinkled streams of divine spring water. Pangolin, help me! Then, Lin Ling transmitted his voice to the pangolin in the valley. As the pangolin was good at digging holes, if it helped set up the barrier formation, the speed would be doubled. Set up the mini Kunlun divine formation. Lin Ling pondered for a moment and finally made a decision. After he stepped into the 9th level martial god realm, the divine inheritance treasure had left behind a grand supreme Dao barrier formation. The mini Kunlun divine formation came from that grand supreme Dao. This formation was created by imitating the Kunlun divine mirror, one of the 12 divine artifacts of the primordial era. It could see the past and present and could travel through time. However, the mini Kunlun divine formation set up by Lin Ling was imitating the Kunlun divine mirror. Naturally, it did not have such power, but it was still not to be underestimated. Lin Ling speculated that even late-stage lower deities would not be able to break out of the formation if they were trapped in it. This was because the formation did not have any offensive power. Even its defensive power was not very strong. The only advantage it had was that it could teleport people to another place. That was all.
Chapter 4403. Time passed quietly.
Lin Ling's soul power was very strong. After 3 days, the minor Kunlun Heaven's secret array was finally completed. On the surface, there was no change in the surroundings of the valley. However, it gave people the feeling that there were many more light rays. It was as if there were many small mirrors hidden in the forest. Finally, it's done. Looking at the completed array, Lin Ling let out a sigh of relief. He thanked the pangolin and told it the chant to enter the array. Then, he entered into a state of cultivation. Now, he had used up all his divine stones. However, he still had a lot of black essence. Refine. Lin Ling first refined the black essence. It formed an ancient spiritual energy that lingered in his 7 dantians. This spiritual energy was clearly different from the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. It had a mysterious energy similar to longevity. No wonder the immortal spirit hegemony nation called the black essence longevity spirit. This was because the longevity spirit seemed to be the symbol of the longevity of heaven and earth. So comfortable. When refining the black essence longevity spirit, Lin Ling felt very comfortable. It was as if he was bathing in the sun. However, after becoming a lower god, any god's cultivation progress would be very slow. Only by accumulating time could they make a big leap. Therefore, when Lin Ling refined all the black essence longevity spirit, his 7 dantians only made a little progress. It seemed that there was still a long way to go before he could stabilize the realm of lower god. Even so, Lin Ling felt that his strength had increased. His divine energy was more vigorous and pure. His physical strength had increased by 500,000 worlds. Now, even if he did not fuse with his innate talent, he would have 1 million worlds. If he fused with his third innate talent, he would reach a terrifying 2 million worlds. As for his speed, it had also increased by leaps and bounds. His basic speed was 200,000 worlds. If he fused with his third innate talent, he would reach a terrifying 300,000 worlds. There are strong and weak low-level deities. For example, the Steel Torrent Army of the Celestial Spirit Hegemony Nation. Although they are all early-stage low-level deities, their strength can't withstand a single blow. That middle-aged man with the yin-yang face is also an early-stage low-level deity, but his strength is slightly stronger than mine. Lin Ling muttered to himself. He also knew that there were many factors that determined one's strength, such as the divine embryo, the power of divinity, treasures, and so on. But now there were very few early-stage low gods who could pose a threat to Lin Ling. Next, let's comprehend the power of God. Then, Lin Ling began to comprehend the Luai's true body, the human king's flame, and the Bodhi testimony divine art. He was very clear that the so-called gods were actually also determined by accumulation. The more accumulation one had, the stronger one would be, and the more one would be able to come into contact with the great Tao of Void. Time quietly passed, and Lin Ling's divine power also continued to increase. His basic divine power finally reached 3,000 strands, and if he used his innate talent to fuse them, he would be able to raise it to 7,000 strands of divine power. Adding the divine essence and physical strength of his 7 dantian, he had almost surpassed 10,000 strands of divine power. The power of the force of heaven. But this time, other than the Luai's true body that had activated the 5th stage, the human king's flame and the Bodhi testimony divine art did not increase much. But the 5th stage of the Luai's true body had increased Lin Ling's divine power by 1,000 strands, and his world speed by 100,000. So now, Lin Ling's 3rd stage innate talent had reached 400,000 world speed. It could be said that in terms of divine power, Lin Ling might not have the most amount of divine power, but in terms of speed, there were not many low gods who could catch up with him. Even mid-stage low gods were few and far between. This time, my strength has increased by more than 30%. If I were to encounter that middle-aged man again, I would be able to put up a fight against him and not be at a disadvantage. After finishing his cultivation, Lin Ling felt refreshed. It was as though he could float away with the wind and enter the great Tao of Void at any time. Panga's strike. Soon after, a stone tablet appeared in Lin Ling's hand. This was the stone tablet that he had snatched from the iron box. And upon closer inspection, the stone tablet had been forcibly torn into 2 halves. The original stone tablet looked more like a stone tablet, and on the modeled stone tablet, there were 3 big words, Panga's strike. Looking at those 3 ancient words, Lin Ling's heart instantly surged. Those 3 big words were not neatly written, but they gave off a majestic feeling, as though those 3 words represented the great Tao of heaven and earth. One of the strongest cultivation techniques of the ancient era. Lin Ling licked his lips. He knew that he had obtained a treasure. If this cultivation technique were to spread to the void of the 9 prefectures, it would be enough to shake the heavens and earth, and cause all the gods and Buddhas to go crazy. Because the 2 words, Panga's strike, represented everything. Next, Lin Ling looked at it carefully. Although the words recorded in the stone tablet were very complicated, these words seemed to be the ancestor of all words, so Lin Ling could barely understand them. But even though he could understand them, it was difficult to understand them. Because what was recorded in these words was the supreme divine ability of heaven and earth. Just like that, Lin Ling held the stone tablet in his hand and continued to comprehend. After 3,000 years of bitter cultivation in the kingdom of eternity, he had already touched the great Tao. In addition, his soul power was strong, so he had a better understanding of those ancient words. And this Panga's strike only had 5 moves, which were Heaven-Splitting Break, earth-shattering, soul-shocking, heaven and earth slash, and premier fight. The 5 moves seemed simple, but in fact, they were broad and profound and all-encompassing. What was recorded in the stone tablet was the first move. Heaven-splitting break. This move was like Panga's heaven-splitting break, a move that could shatter heaven, earth, mystic, and yellow. It was as famous as the #1 body cultivation method, the Panga's true martial art. In fact, the Panga's strike was a move, but the Panga's true martial art was the true body cultivation method. Only by cultivating both at the same time could one achieve Panga's true martial art. Body, invincible heaven and earth. So powerful. Lin Ling continued to comprehend, and his heart became increasingly excited. Now he hadn't obtained the Panga's true martial art, and he had only obtained the first move of the Panga's strike. But he had a feeling that this would be his strongest physical attack, and it might even be his strongest attack for a long time. Ha! As Lin Ling continued to comprehend, a blurry figure appeared in his mind. This person struck out with a palm, landing in heaven, earth, mystic, and yellow, directly splitting open the world of primordial chaos. It was a very simple move, but it contained a profound great Tao. Even if one could see it clearly, it was very difficult to learn. Moreover, this was the second step. The prerequisite for the first step was that one had to have the physical strength of 1,000,000 worlds. But Lin Ling had clearly met this requirement. With my comprehension of the great Tao and powerful soul force, I still can't figure it out. Lin Ling stood up, and then sank into the ground. After passing through the pangolin's nest, Lin Ling had already appeared 10,000 miles underground. Then, he continued to use that move, and his palm continued to strike down. That's not right. I clearly remember it being like this. Why does it feel different after I use it? Again. This time I feel a trace of charm. Not good. The feeling I felt before has disappeared again. It was a simple move, but it consumed Lin Ling's blood, sweat, and tears. He maintained the same posture, and constantly practiced and explored. The 1,000th move. The 1,000th move. The 1,000th move. The 1,000th move. 10 million. Chapter 4404. It was as if Lin Ling was possessed. Time passed by quietly. Under the constant cultivation and comprehension, his soul force was also quietly increasing as if it was being nourished by the great Tao. And on his body, a divine might that could split heaven and earth was quietly sprouting like a seed. Rumble. After an unknown amount of time, when Lin Ling once again maintained the posture of slashing out with his palm, the ground suddenly continued to shake. Under that palm, the endless divine earth under Lin Ling's feet seemed to be squeezed by a powerful force. Then, after a wave of impact, it began to turn into powder. Success. Lin Ling's body trembled as he stared at his palm in disbelief. When he activated that palm, he felt as if he had turned into Pangu, splitting heaven and earth, creating his own great Tao. And this palm also made Lin Ling realize that the power it contained was double of his physical strength. Now, Lin Ling's basic physical strength was 1,000,000 worlds. If it was doubled, it would be 2,000,000 worlds. And this was the premise of not using the third stage talent fusion. If it was the third stage, the previous palm would have reached 4,000,000 worlds. How terrifying, what a powerful technique. Lin Ling was shocked. Although it was only a 1-fold increase in physical strength, one should know that Lin Ling only had the physical strength of 1,000,000 worlds. What if it increased in the future? It would reach 2,000,000, 3,000,000, or even 5,000,000. At that time, Lin Ling's attack would reach 10,000,000. World power. What kind of concept was this? Destroying 10,000,000 worlds with a wave of his hand. This power was terrifying. It was probably comparable to the power of 100,000 gods. Therefore, Lin Ling was clear that Panga's first attack, split the heavens, was indeed worthy of having the power to split heaven and earth. Lin Ling maintained this posture as he constantly recalled the feeling from before. Then, it was deeply engraved in his soul. Rumble. After a long time, when Lin Ling's soul was deeply branded with that feeling, the earth shook once more. But this time, the shaking came from the top of his head. Almost at the same time, Lin Ling opened his eyes, and a wild aura emanated from the depths of his eyes. This wild aura was the most primitive and ancient aura of Pangu. He smiled faintly and said, "You're really slow.
You only came to me now?
His soul force could clearly sense that around the valley, an army of 500,000 had arrived.
All kinds of divine chariots and divine cannons were ready, and they were glaring at the enemy like a tiger watching its prey.
Lin Ling sneered and stepped forward.
Rumble! At this moment, outside the valley, the army had gathered. The Qilin, Green Dragon, and White Tiger divine cannons were firing continuously into the sky, illuminating the entire area. Whoosh! Whoosh! Looking to the left, tens of thousands of arrows filled the sky. It was extraordinarily beautiful. Those arrows formed a huge bow in the sky. It was majestic. On the right, tens of thousands of soldiers raised their spears. Their spears were like a gale that shook the heavens and the earth. In the middle was an endless shield that was as impregnable as a fortress. This army of 500,000 was clearly stronger than the steel torrent that chased after Lin Ling. They were true elites. Although their strength was also at the early lower god level, they had fought together for many years and could advance and retreat together. They had already formed a sense of kinship. Moreover, their formations were more than twice as powerful as before. Tsese. So this is the immortal spirit hegemony nation? How arrogant, showing off their strength the moment they arrived. In the valley, treasure god Nanwu Fengyu and the others calmly looked at the army of 500,000 in the distance. They were not worried at all because before Lin Ling went into seclusion, he had told them that the immortal spirit hegemony nation could come at any time. In addition, Lin Ling had set up a barrier here, so they were naturally not worried. They were nervous. Tskeske, I heard from Lord Lei Gong that this immortal spirit hegemony nation came from the other side of the Kai Yuan River, the same place as the Dragon Valley. But now, it seems that this immortal spirit hegemony nation has countless experts. Young Beast Lord couldn't help but praise. Although they are called gods, even if they were placed in the divine world back then, they would probably be cannon fodder existences. Such gods, other than relying on numbers, aren't much of a threat. Emperor God Zhang Gang said with a smile. He had returned from the era of gods back then, so he naturally knew the strength of the divine world back then. To be honest, the potential of our 9 continents void is greater because there are more warriors there. It's just that our foundation is not as strong as that bastard nation. However, if that bastard nation wants to devour our Lei Gong Hall, haha, it's not that I'm looking down on them, but they are dreaming. Treasure god Nanwu Fengyu laughed again. While they were talking, the army of 500,000 in the distance was still surging. Moreover, there was a divine chariot pulled by 50 divine dragons in front of the army. There was only one person on the chariot, a youth wearing a white robe and a feathered crown. That's the 9 continents void's Lei Gong Hall, one of the 4 great gods of the 9 continents void? How disappointing. Ever since Lei Gong fell, the Hall of Lei Gong has fallen into decline. Now, it can only hide in this small valley. The youth said with pity. Of course, there was also a hint of disdain in his words. Immortal Master, although the Hall of Lei Gong has fallen, a starving camel is still bigger than a horse. That new Lei Gong is still quite amazing. He killed one of our divine marshals and killed our 500,000 soldiers. This grudge must be avenged. In front of the chariot, 6 divine marshals stood there. One of them, an old man with white eyebrows, angrily said, "That's because you guys are trash. I heard that the army died in the Mad Bull formation. Haha, this Mad Bull formation was something that Lei Gong brought upon himself. In the end, you guys blocked the calamity for him. Sigh, it seems that sometimes, being strong doesn't mean that you can lead an army. In my opinion, you guys have cultivated too much that your brains have gone stupid." Hearing this, the other divine marshals immediately mocked. Don't go too far. Being hit while they were down, the 3 divine marshals with white eyebrows' faces instantly turned ugly. All right. What's the point of quarreling with one another? However, at this moment, the youth in white waved his hand and said calmly, "Although we sacrificed 500,000 soldiers, the Hall of Lei Gong will compensate us. Moreover, I also believe in the saying that a starving camel is still bigger than a horse. Therefore, although the Hall of Lei Gong has fallen, it still has many experts. Let's use them to make up for our lost army." Immortal Master is wise. This is a brilliant move. Wonderful. Hearing this, the divine marshals immediately flattered him. Haha. The youth in white laughed and said, "Everything has its pros and cons. You guys should learn to be open-minded. This is the true Void Dao. Chapter 4405. Haha, it doesn't matter. He won't be able to escape from my grasp. Men, go and challenge Lei Gong. Tell him that I, the great sorcerer Ling Bao, want to see him. I'll give him 3 incense sticks worth of time to consider. If he doesn't come out by then, don't blame me for flattening this place. The young man in white waved his hand nonchalantly. Although his last sentence seemed calm, it carried an unparalleled domineering aura. I'll challenge him. Hearing this, the divine commanders immediately rushed to volunteer. Then, a burly man snatched the lead. He laughed and said, Lei Gong sacrificed 500,000 soldiers. Just watch us. We won't need a single soldier to make His Majesty Lei Gong surrender. After saying that, he floated forward and shouted, Lei Gong, come out and see me immediately. I'll give you 3 incense sticks worth of time. If the time is up, don't blame us, the immortal spirit hegemony nation, for eradicating this place. In his opinion, the valley must be in chaos and panic now that their 500,000 soldiers were showing off their might outside the valley. Perhaps, many people in His Majesty Lei Gong's majesty were planning to surrender. Screw you. However, just as he finished speaking, the voice of an old man came from the valley. His voice was very domineering and full of disdain. What? Hearing that, the divine commander's face turned as ugly as a pig's liver. His Majesty Lei Gong's majesty was still stubbornly resisting when the army was approaching. How bold of him! Fire the cannons and show them who's boss. Behind him, the young man in white smiled faintly. He believed that His Majesty Lei Gong did not know how powerful they were. Boom, 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 boom. Tens of thousands of cannons roared. That kind of power could probably kill any mid-stage low-god expert. The echoes of the explosions also reverberated throughout the land. Nice fireworks. Do you have more? But at this moment, a clear voice finally sounded. Lin Ling had finally appeared above the valley. However, Lin Ling's appearance surprised the immortal spirit hegemony nation. This was because Lin Ling did not panic at all. Instead, he had a mocking smile on his face. He's Lei Gong. Seeing Lin Ling appear, the white-browed old man and the other 2 divine commanders' eyes turned red. Are there more fireworks? At this moment, Lin Ling's voice drifted over again. It was incomparably insolent and arrogant. That's Lei Gong from the Great Hall of Lei Gong. He's really beyond my imagination. The white-robed young man narrowed his eyes. Clearly, he hadn't expected that his display of the might of a 500,000-strong army would be viewed as a spectacular display of fireworks by the other party. To the immortal spirit nation, this was a humiliation. Lei Gong, I'll give you a chance. After all, my patience is limited. Soon after, the white-clothed young man issued a final ultimatum. Opportunity my ass. Are you an idiot? If you want to fight, then fight. Are you trying to show off the strength of your country by setting off fireworks outside the valley? However, I'll also give you a chance. Set off a few more fireworks. If you can make our great hall of Lei Gong happy, we'll spare your country's life. Lin Ling said with a hearty laugh. That's right. It's best if you send your beauties to dance and liven up the mood. In the valley, everyone's laughter drifted out as well. This infuriated the great Taoist master Numinous Treasure. How could this be the attitude of someone who was about to be captured? There was no limit to how arrogant he could be. How arrogant! Great Taoist master Numinous Treasure, allow me to lead my army to kill them. The 7 divine commanders were also furious. This Lei Gong kept calling them girls. He was looking down on them. Calm down. In a battle between 2 armies, the worst thing to do is to lose your rationality due to anger. Now that the time has not come, let's give them a little more time. Perhaps they're just bluffing. Even though the great Taoist master Numinous Treasure was about to explode from anger, he still maintained his calm. Bluff your ass. Bluff your whole family. Your whole family are monks. If you want to fight, then come. What nonsense are you spouting? However, at this moment, Lin Ling's infuriating voice drifted over again. Again your sister. Damn it! The 500,000 soldiers could not hold it in any longer. This Lei Gong had killed half of their people. Now, not only was he not guilty or afraid, he was still as arrogant as ever. This made the immortal spirit nation lose all face. Lei Gong. The great Taoist master numinous treasure could not hold it in any longer. He shouted coldly, "I don't know if you're really arrogant or just playing a trick.
But let me tell you, as long as I wave my flag, your valley will be flattened by the cavalry."
Oh, you're talking big. Then try waving your flag. If you don't, you're my son. Lin Ling laughed and said disdainfully, "Let me tell you, I dared to kill your 500,000 soldiers because I thought you were nothing. Now that you dare to challenge me, Lei Gong, I'll annihilate your entire army. Immortal Master, please let us destroy them."
Hearing this, the divine commanders could not hold it in any longer.
Ha ha ha, you old young women and children. What a joke. What a joke. But that's fine. Let me see how you're going to destroy my army of 500,000. Everyone, listen to my orders. Use the formation to kill the enemy. Use the Luo Ding pushing heaven formation to eradicate the entire Thunder God Palace. Seeing that the time was up, the white-robed youth finally waved his flag. No matter what tricks Lei Gong's Great Hall was playing, the valley was only so big. He did not believe that Lei Gong's Great Hall could fly away. Kill! War drums were beaten and flags fluttered in the wind. Countless divine cannons were fired and bombarded the valley.
Then, the mighty army lined up and charged forward.
500,000 soldiers and 500,000 deities were all crushing a small valley at the same time. Even if this valley was made of steel, it could not stop them. This time you're still not dead. The white-browed old man became excited at this moment. Poor Lei Gong's Great Hall. After today, I'm afraid his name will be erased from the 9 states void. Hee, the 4 great gods, your reputation is undeserved. The other divine commanders said contemptuously. They're here. Looking at the valley again, everyone was looking forward to it. This was because they had been so arrogant before, not because they were bored arguing with the immortal spirit supremacy nation, but because they wanted to provoke them and make them enter the minor Kunlun divine array. Boom, 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 boom. Countless divine cannons were fired. However, when they were about to reach the valley, they suddenly disappeared. It was as if they had passed through a spatial tunnel and been reversed to another place. Boom, boom, boom. In the distant sky, divine cannons fell like meteors and bombarded the ground. This was the power of the minor Kunlun divine array. It could make anything that entered the array reverse time and space and bring them to an unknown place. Kill! After looking at the divine cannons again, the 500,000 soldiers flooded forward. However, a moment ago, they were boiling with killing intent, but the next moment, they quieted down. It was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop on the ground. This caused the great Taoist master numinous treasure and the others in the distance to frown. They felt that something was wrong. This was because the 500,000 soldiers suddenly became silent. This was too strange. Even if one of them farted, they would be able to hear it. Chapter 4406. Great Wizard Numinous Treasure. Something's not right. A divine general frowned, causing the great wizard Numinous Treasure to look into the distance solemnly. All he could see was the constant rumbling around the valley. When the sound and light disappeared, the valley was still a valley. Even the flowers and grass remained the same. The only thing that changed was their 500,000 strong army. Not a single one of them was left. How is this possible? The great wizard Numinous Treasure roared. In the blink of an eye, their 500,000 strong army was wiped out. This was too unreal. One had to know that those were gods with the ability to reverse the situation. They were not ordinary mortal soldiers. Oh my God, not a single hair of our army was left behind. Besides, there wasn't a huge battle. But there wasn't even a corpse. Are my eyes playing tricks on me? Otherwise, how could such a terrifying thing happen? 6666. The divine generals were scared out of their wits. Although they had seen a lot, this was the first time they had seen something so strange. As for the white-browed elder and the other 3 divine generals, they were so scared that snot was running down their noses. As they had pursued Lin Ling before, they knew how difficult it was to deal with Lin Ling. He could turn the impossible into the possible. Therefore, they were not surprised by the impossibility before them.
But they were surprised that even the great wizard Numinous Treasure had taken action personally. Even so, the 500,000-strong army could not escape the fate of being slaughtered. This Lei Gong was so scary. Where am I? Wow, how did I fall into the demon's lair? At this moment, in a faraway cave, over 100 divine soldiers fell from the sky, and around them were numerous ice-cold demons. There were even a few cave masters drinking wine, but at this moment, they were also looking at them with murderous intent. This was because the cave masters had just reunited and were celebrating. In the end, they had only drunk half of the wine when these divine soldiers wearing armor and brimming with killing intent suddenly fell from the sky. Were they courting death? Oh my God! We fell into the cave master's territory. What happened? Weren't we in the small valley? The divine soldiers who fell were scared out of their wits. Their hair stood on end. Kill them and give them wine. But what greeted them was the murderous intent of the cave masters. The same thing happened on the other side. Some people fell into the demon's nest, some fell into the mystic realm, and some lost their way. My lord, where are you? Aren't we in a small valley? Heavens, where the hell is this god-forsaken place? Hundreds of divine soldiers advanced along the desert. Their faces were ugly, and they were about to cry. 500,000 soldiers were teleported away by the array, disappearing from one place to another. Some of them even lost the chance to return forever. Looking at the valley again, the remaining people were all silent. A strange atmosphere quietly spread around them. It's over. The million-strong army has been completely wiped out. How am I supposed to report back? The Numinous Treasure Great Taoist Master's body suddenly trembled as his face turned pale. Like I said, a starving camel is still bigger than a horse. This is what we get for underestimating Lei Gong. The white-browed old man said with a bitter smile. Is this the time to gloat? A divine marshal scolded angrily. All right, stop arguing. At that moment, the Numinous Treasure Great Taoist Master finally reacted. Then, he stared at the small valley and frowned. It's a boundary array. It must be a boundary array. Furthermore, this boundary array is very powerful. It can even fool me. At that moment, he finally sensed something. He looked up at the blue-robed youth above the valley, and his eyes were filled with solemnity and disbelief. Lei Gong, you knew we were coming, so you used such a method to welcome us. The Numinous Treasure Great Taoist Master said through gritted teeth. His deep voice indicated how angry he was. You aren't too stupid. Above the valley, Lin Ling smiled and nodded. You have guts. The Numinous Treasure Great Taoist Master nodded heavily as well. Then, he said coldly, you made my 500,000 soldiers disappear without a trace with the help of an array. You are very powerful, but I don't believe this array can protect you forever. If you have the ability, don't come out for the rest of your lives. Otherwise, you will be killed without mercy. That's right, Lei Gong. If you have the ability, don't come out for the rest of your life. When the other divine commanders heard that, they also spoke angrily. They would not go to the valley. They would wait outside the valley and see who could outlast the other. Haha, if you don't come in, do you not allow us to go out? Great Hall Lei Gong, listen to my orders and follow me to kill the enemy. However, Lin Ling also shouted angrily. Then, under the shocked gaze of the Numinous Treasure Great Taoist Master, Lin Ling led the experts from the Great Hall Lei Gong and charged over in a mighty manner. You are courting death. Although this choice surprised the Numinous Treasure Great Taoist Master, they were all mid-stage lower deity experts. How could Lei Gong, an early-stage lower deity, kill them all? This was simply a fool's dream. I'll fight you. The white-browed elder hated Lin Ling the most. He held the creation divine stone in his hand and was the first to pounce on Lin Ling. White-browed, you are so despicable. How dare you take the first credit? Seeing that, the other divine commanders were unhappy. In their opinion, killing Lei Gong was a great merit and should be shared equally. However, Lin Ling's expression did not change in the face of the white-browed elder who was charging at him. The third stage of the innate talent fusion appeared, and the palm hanging by his leg quietly condensed a wisp of energy that only existed in the primordial chaos. Just nice. I'll use you to test my Pangu strike. Sensing that his strength had reached its peak, Lin Ling's mind also flashed with the image of the ancient figure violently striking out with his palm. At this moment, Lin Ling actually felt a sense of heroism that could split the heavens and earth apart and create his own heaven, earth, mystic, and yellow. Sky-splitting slash. Lin Ling raised his palm and the energy of 4 million worlds pulsated. Then, he looked at the white-browed elder who was charging at him and struck out. This strike was like a knife, a sword, and an axe, but it carried with it a domineering aura of the Great Tao. This was the aura of the Great Tao. What? At this moment, the strongest person present, Treasure God Nanwu Fengyu's eyes trembled. From Lin Ling's strike, he sensed the most ancient will of the Great Tao. Looking at the white-browed elder, his face was originally filled with killing intent, but when he saw Lin Ling's strike, his eyes suddenly trembled. Because that strike gave him a feeling of the Great Tao of the Void. It made his heaven and earth disappear. The only thing left was that strike. Moreover, that strike did not seem to be fast. He even had 100 ways to dodge and counter it. However, when he really wanted to dodge, he found that he could not. It was as if his speed and techniques were all suppressed. The only thing he could do was to watch the strike arrive with his own eyes. What move is this? In the end, he could only see a burly and naked giant appear in his world. His hand was like an axe that split the primordial chaos apart. Chapter 4407. This sudden turn of events caused the Grandmasters of Numinous Treasure to open their mouths wide. That was a mid-stage lower deity. Killed in one move? Killed in one move? It should be known that even a mid-stage lower deity would find it difficult to kill his opponent in one move. What kind of move was that? How could he kill his opponent in one move? The Grandmaster of Numinous Treasure's eyes continued to flicker. For the first time, he felt that Lei Gong was much more powerful than he had imagined. Bastard country? At this moment, a voice suddenly sounded. Then, a pitch-black chain wrapped around a divine marshal like a galaxy and tied him up in an instant. The divine marshal was beaten until he could not fight back. So powerful. Who is this? The scholarly divine marshal's eyes trembled violently when he saw this. The person who attacked was not Lin Ling, but a strange man with a stone tablet on his back. However, the chain in his hand was very powerful. It carried a power that was not comparable to divine energy. It seemed to be a divine staircase. Why are there so many experts in the Grand Hall of Lei Gong? Isn't there only one expert called Young Qilin? The scholarly divine marshal felt that something was wrong because the Grand Hall of Lei Gong seemed to be more powerful than he had imagined. Young Qilin? Are you talking about me? Suddenly, a lion covered in green fur appeared beside the scholarly divine marshal. He tilted his head and looked at the divine marshal indifferently. Once again, the divine marshal was shocked. Young Qilin was the strongest warrior in the Grand Hall of Lei Gong. They had originally planned to suppress him with several divine marshals, but now it seemed that it was impossible. Why is the Grand Hall of Lei Gong so powerful? The Grand Master of Numinous Treasure's face was also very ugly. However, at this moment, endless wind and rain surged and formed a great world, sealing the Grand Master of Numinous Treasure within. This power was very strong. The divine energy was endless and had reached a terrifying limit. Even the aftershock of the wind and rain heavily injured a divine marshal. From this, one could see how terrifying this person's strength was. This is bad. I'm afraid this person is even stronger than Lei Gong. The Grand Master of Numinous Treasure was shocked again. Not far away, an old man was calmly looking at him with his hands behind his back. Moreover, other than the experts from before, there was also a yaksha with a stone tablet in his hand. He was also very powerful. Moreover, the few women behind him were not weak either. Although they had not reached mid-stage lower deity strength, they were still considered among early-stage lower deities. The Grand Hall of Lei Gong's Great Numinous Treasure. The Grand Master of Numinous Treasure was, the Great of Numinous Treasure could not. The Great Taoist Master Numinous Treasure could not retaliate at all. He was sealed by the wind and rain, and it was as though an ancient power had surged into his body, causing him to vomit blood and retreat. Bastard country! How dare you come to the Thunder God Palace to cause trouble? 4. Calm be, thee of the void. The old man in the distance laughed disdainfully. He was Treasure God Nanwu Fengyu, the strongest expert in the Thunder God Palace. He wasn't much weaker than Yushin and the others. I surrender. I surrender on behalf of the immortal Numinous Treasure. Seeing that the situation was hopeless, the Grand Master of Numinous Treasure could only say bitterly, if they continued to fight, they would be completely annihilated.
Surrender? Sure. Hand over 100 divine springs and I will let you leave.
Lin Ling said calmly from afar.
100 divine springs? You're not going to rob them?
Hearing Lin Ling's outrageous demand, the surviving divine marshals were enraged. Everyone was well aware of what a divine spring represented. 100 divine springs was not a small sum. It was enough to greatly enhance the strength of a low-level god and nurture many deity realm experts.
That's right. I am robbing them now.
Lin Ling nodded and said calmly.
All right, we'll give them to you.
The Grand Master of Numinous Treasure finally compromised. Compared to the divine springs, his life was more important.
The 100 divine springs are here. Take a look for yourself.
After that, the great Taoist Master Numinous Treasure handed over the 100 divine springs. After Lin Ling checked it, he accepted it with a smile and said calmly, in the end, Bastard Country and the Void of the 9 States are together. In order to show the respect of the Void of the 9 States, let's forget about this matter.
Let's hope we can remain friendly.
Friendly my ass. Hearing this, the surviving divine marshals cursed inwardly. The immortal Numinous Treasure had prepared 1,000,000 steel torrents and countless experts for this trip to the Xueqi cave. But in the end, they were swallowed by the Lei Gong Hall. Now, there were less than 10,000 people left. Not only that, the Lei Gong Hall extorted a huge sum from them.
Damn it! Let's go!
The Grand Master of Numinous Treasure roared and hurriedly left with the rest of his people. He had thought that he would succeed this time, but in the end, he accompanied his wife and lost his troops. Take care, I won't see you off.
Lin Ling waved his hand.
When the immortal Numinous Treasure god and the others completely disappeared, Nanwu Fengyu and the others laughed heartily. They were very happy because they thought that the bastard nation had come in a domineering manner, played drums and set off firecrackers, and then ran away with their tails between their legs. They felt that it was very funny.
100 divine springs. Let's divide them equally.
Lin Ling nodded with satisfaction and led everyone back to the valley. Lin Ling kept 20 of the divine springs for himself, and the rest were divided equally among the others. In the following days, everyone cultivated in the valley and plundered the surrounding area for treasures. They had a great harvest. Lin Ling was also in the midst of stabilizing his realm. He was very satisfied with the result of the Panga strike that he had used not too long ago because it could instantly kill a mid-stage low god with a single strike. It was truly too powerful. If he used it together with the Step of Wisdom, perhaps he could even put up a fight against a late-stage low god. During this period of time, my strength has increased by leaps and bounds. It's time to look for the remaining treasures in the scabbard. On this day, Lin Ling finally decided to set off and go deeper into the Xueqi cave. Then, he stated his request to see who would go with him. Nanwu Fengyu, Emperor God Zhang Gang, and the others all nodded. Yu Yu, Sister Xueqi, and the others also proposed to go with him. Lin Ling thought for a long time and finally left the young Qilin behind. His big brother, young Master Yao, and the others would stay here and take the lead. Along the way, only Saint Guyi, who was relatively strong in Lei Gong's main hall, went with him. After they were ready, they immediately set off. Lin Ling had traveled farther than them, so he knew that the only way to enter the depths of the Xueqi cave was through the underground cave.
72 cave masters?
Are they very powerful? After Lin Ling explained the general situation of the cave, everyone was very curious.
Chapter 4408. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh.
None of them were weak, so they passed through the cave very quickly. However, they did encounter some demons along the way. These demons were only average in strength. Even without Lin Ling's help, Yu Yu and the rest could deal with them. This also made Lin Ling realize that Yu Yu and Inuer's strength had greatly increased. However, the underground cave extended in all directions. Along the way, Lin Ling and the rest did not seem to have passed through the cave. There's a battle over there. On this day, Lin Ling sensed a completely different battle aura. This aura not only had the aura of demons, but also the aura of many humans. This way. Now that Lin Ling also wanted to get out of this cave, he wanted to find someone to lead the way.
It seems to be the aura of De Wang and the rest. Following Lin Ling, Sister Xueqi and the rest suddenly exclaimed. Who's De Wang? Lin Ling immediately frowned. Lin Ling, don't you remember? When you were cultivating at Grandpa Kurishin's place, he was in charge of cutting firewood. Sister Xueqi immediately said. After Xueqi mentioned it, Lin Ling had some recollection of it. Quick, I'm afraid they're in danger. After that, Lin Ling did not waste any more time. He sped up and ran wildly along the cave. At this moment, in the depths of the cave, a large number of demons were besieging a few people. These people were not weak, but there were too many demons around them. In addition, they had been fighting for a long time, so as time passed, they gradually fell into a disadvantage. Hee, you must be from the Kurishin. When the demons surrounded the few people, a fat toad man swaggered out of another cave. Cave Master Blood Toad. Seeing the toad man with white liquid all over his body, the surrounding demons laughed. These demons were also very ugly. Some of them were centipede people, spider people, and so on. They were all poisonous. I want 2 of them. After the fat toad man walked in, he immediately laughed and said, saliva flowing out of his huge mouth. Old Toad, aren't you being too greedy? There's a total of 7 people and you've already taken 2 of them. Do you think we don't exist? However, there were quite a number of cave masters present, so one of them immediately objected. Peacock Cave Master, out of the 7 people, I only want 2. The other 5 are yours. Am I being greedy? The Toad Man was immediately unhappy. You should know that we have been besieging them for a long time. Although these people are not strong, they are all fighting with their lives on the line. Because of this, many of our people have died. Bullshit. I've lost a lot of my underlings too. I don't care. I just want 2 of them. I want to use them to refine Yao Dawn.
A few of the cave masters fought until their faces were flushed red, and their little brothers were also cursing at each other.
This allowed the few people who were surrounded in the center to take a short breather, but it was only a short rest. They knew that although these cave masters were fighting, they were also constantly eyeing them like tigers eyeing their prey. As long as there was even a little bit of it. If they acted rashly, these cave masters would fight against them together. It's over. The Kurishin wants us to go pick up Sister Xueqi and the others, but we're blocked here. What should we do next? We can't even protect ourselves. How are we going to pick them up? These few people were talking in low voices, but their expressions were getting worse and worse. There's no need to fight. These 7 people. Give them to our Lei Gong Palace. However, at this moment, a cold laugh came from within the cave. Then, a man walked in with large strides. His aura was magnificent, and with a raise of his hand, those Yao Dawn were punched to death. Blood spurted out and splattered all over the ground. From afar, this person could be called an invincible war god. Who is it? This sudden change made the few cave masters frown. Suddenly, one of the cave masters looked at the person in disbelief. It's you. This cave master was naturally the Peacock Cave Master. Seeing Lin Ling again, the Peacock Cave Master's eyes turned red. This was because Lin Ling had snatched his feather plume a long time ago, and then disappeared without a trace. He couldn't find him even after searching the entire cave.
He didn't expect that Lin Ling would dare to appear in front of him again.
I was wondering who it was. So it's you, the flat feather chicken. After entering, Lin Ling looked at the Peacock Cave Master and smiled faintly. Old Kong, who is this person?
At the side, a cave master who looked like a 2-headed turtle shrunk his head and asked.
An enemy. The Peacock Cave Master said coldly.
However, just as he finished speaking, the Toad Cave Master beside him let out a croak and pounced at Lin Ling. This person is not weak.
Hee, I want to use him to refine the Yao Dawn. When the Toad Cave Master pounced, the surrounding space exploded, and a terrifying Yao Dawn exploded. The divine energy was very powerful. The 72 cave masters were formed after tens of millions of years, so each of them was very powerful and dominated a region. Boom! However, in the face of the Toad Cave Master's attack, Lin Ling smiled and threw out a punch. Now that his strength had increased greatly, he could kill these cave masters by relying on the second stage of the fusion talent. Crash! Lin Ling's punch was like a siege car. It directly smashed the Toad Cave Master's head and penetrated his stomach. Croak! A powerful cave master had died here, causing the entire cave to become silent.
The peacock cave master's face was filled with disbelief, because although Lin Ling was strong, he was not this ferocious the last time they met.
It's Lei Gong.
As for the 7 people who were surrounded, they recognized Lin Ling and shouted excitedly.
It seems that I have underestimated you.
This time, I must use my true strength.
The peacock cave master did not dare to underestimate Lin Ling. A 7-colored light flashed behind him, and his feathers bloomed like a peacock spreading its tail.
It was very beautiful.
Stage 3.
Facing a mid-stage lower god like the peacock cave master, Lin Ling did not dare to underestimate him. He increased his strength again, and the crimson sword appeared. It formed a terrifying sea of blood and slashed out.
This time, even if you use your full strength, you are still no match for me.
The roiling sea of blood was mixed with the terrifying steps of slaughter. In addition to Lin Ling's divine energy, and physical strength, it flooded towards the peacock cave master.
No, this is impossible.
The peacock cave master's pupils trembled violently. When the sea of blood was about to drown him, he felt a terrifying energy surging towards him. It was as though he had seen the nemesis of all demons.
At this moment, he was finally sure that Lin Ling's strength had increased greatly. Even if he used his full strength, he was still no match for Lin Ling. One should know that when Lin Ling broke one of his feathers, he did not use his full strength.
Therefore, when he was defeated, he was still thinking that the next time he used his full strength, he would make this young man regret it. But now, he was the one who regretted it.
Crash!
Without any resistance, the peacock cave master fell.
Silence!
The previously noisy cave was now dead silent.
None of the fiendish demons dared to move.
Their bodies were trembling.
Damn humans! They killed 2 of our cave masters.
Kill them.
Chapter 4409.
You're so noisy, little monkey.
At this moment, Treasure God Nanwu Fengyu and the others arrived.
Treasure God Nanwu Fengyu appeared above the cave master's head and slammed his palm down.
Whoosh!
Like a watermelon being split open, another seemingly invincible cave master fell here. After his head exploded, a foul stench of blood permeated the air.
Speaking of which, how long has it been since you guys last bathed?
So smelly. Treasure God Nanwu Fengyu jumped up and dodged the splash of blood energy. Spare me. Several cave masters were dead, and the remaining lesser demons all knelt down.
They were completely terrified. In their minds, cave masters were invincible existences.
However, the people who appeared today were each more powerful than the last.
They killed their cave masters so easily.
This made them realize just how powerful these people were.
They were so powerful.
Kill them all.
However, Lin Ling did not give any face to these man-eating demons.
He waved his hand and walked towards the strange man.
Lin Ling. Lord Lei Gong.
The 7 of them were from the Curishan side, so they recognized Lin Ling and smiled excitedly.
Brother De Wang.
Sister Cui Hua, Xiao Nan, and the rest also rushed in. They then looked at the 7 people and laughed.
Sister Cui Hua.
The 7 of them were relieved when they saw Sister Cui Hua and the others.
We were just about to look for you, and you came.
That's great, as long as you guys are fine. The honest man called Brother De Wang smiled and said, Grandpa Curishan was worried about your safety, so he asked us to come and get you.
What happened to Grandpa Curishan?
Sister Cui Hua and the others asked immediately.
I don't know, but when we left the Curishan, it was chaos.
There were experts everywhere, including Eugene, Titanic Crescent God, and the Bull Demon from the Bull Demon tribe. There were also some gods who came from nowhere, but they were all very powerful.
Are all the top experts there?
At this moment, Lin Ling also opened his mouth and said, with so many top experts gathered here, could it be that something attracted them? I heard that there's a divine clock, and it's very powerful.
All the gods are fighting for it.
Brother De Wang said immediately.
Clock. Lin Ling frowned.
Although he did not know what clock it was, it must be something extraordinary if all the gods were fighting for it.
Bring us there immediately.
Lin Ling said immediately.
Okay.
De Wang and the others nodded.
A piece of straw appeared in their hands.
The straw seemed to be quite extraordinary. After it landed on the ground, It pointed in a direction. Over here. Afterward, De Wang and the others led Lin Ling and the others forward quickly. Along the way, De Wang said, Grandpa Black God is there alone. I'm afraid that he's in danger. Let's speed up. Lin Ling nodded. The Curishan was Lei Gong's good brother. Even if Lei Gong was still alive, he would definitely help the Curishan. Therefore, Lin Ling was no exception. The caves extended in all directions and were very chaotic. While De Wang and the others were leading the way, they passed by the territories of a few cave masters. Be careful, everyone. When we came here previously, we almost woke up the cave master. It said that it's a huge crab and is very powerful. Even Grandpa Curishan doesn't dare to provoke it. When they arrived at a cave full of water, De Wang slowed down and carefully walked over step by step. This is too slow. Let's rush over. However, Lin Ling was worried about the Curishan and was not interested in walking slowly. This won't do. De Wang and the others were frightened when they saw Lin Ling being so impulsive. Don't worry, we have many strong people here. We'll kill anyone who stands in our way. Lin Ling said coldly and looked at Treasure God Nan Wu Fengyu and the others. Treasure God Nan Wu Fengyu immediately smiled and nodded. Even though the Curishan were wary of the Crab Cave Master, they had more powerful people here than the Curishan. When Treasure God Nan Wu Fengyu nodded, Lin Ling immediately asked De Wang to lead the way. The latter was so frightened that his face turned pale. He looked helplessly at Sister Xueqi and only dared to lead the way after she agreed. Crazy. But even so, while leading the way, he and the other 6 people were still trembling with fear and muttering to themselves. When they sped up, they undoubtedly alarmed the demons in this area. They saw crab-like demons emerging from the puddles on the ground. Kill! Lin Ling roared and the strong people behind him charged forward, killing all the demons they encountered along the way. Boom! In the end, the most terrifying crab cave lord appeared. It was as huge as a mountain, and its pair of giant pincers seemed to be able to tear apart any realm. Looking at its huge mouth, large amounts of white whiskers were hanging there, proving that it was very old. What little demon dares to disturb my meditation? It let out a low voice that caused a terrifying sound wave storm. I'm Lei Gong. If you dare block my way, I'll kill you. The tyrannical song sword appeared in Lin Ling's hand. Without further ado, he attacked. Old crab, I wonder if you're old, or I'm older. Treasure God Nan Wu Fengyu also attacked. Rolling wind and rain flooded over. Following that, the others attacked one after another, joining forces to suppress the Crab Cave Master. This sudden change caught the Crab Cave Master off guard. What shocked him the most was that there was not a single weakling in this group. They were all strong, incomparably strong. Of course, it was fine if this group was strong, but fucking joining forces. Wait. The Crab Cave Master's shell was very hard, blocking the combined attacks of the group. However, while it looked unharmed, it could not hold on for much longer. Wait your ass. Lin Ling attacked in order to save time. There was no way he could wait. He floated up and slashed out with the heaven-splitting slash. Hualala! The Crab Cave Master, who had endured countless attacks, could not hold on any longer. Its armor completely cracked. Dang! The armor had just cracked when Treasure God Nan Wu Fengyu attacked. Under the suppression of the divine power, the powerful cave master was killed. The entire battle took a very short time. 3 incense sticks were not even enough. This terrifying change scared De Wang and the others. Their faces were pale, and they could not speak for a long time. Too strong. This is Lei Gong's hall? Lin Ling is much stronger than before. If he had not broken his shell, the crab demon would have been able to hold on for a long time. As expected, we worried too much. The 7 whispered, and then led the way again. As for Lin Ling, he collected the treasures left behind by the old crab demon and immediately set off. He did not expect to reap such a bountiful harvest along the way. Apart from the treasures left behind by the old crab demon, the plume left behind by the peacock cave lord was also extremely valuable. Chapter 44:10. We're here. Here. Lin Ling looked at the setting sun. He could feel a strong demonic aura coming towards him. Rumble. Far away in the sky, there were thunderbolts. These thunderbolts were colorful and domineering. When they landed on the ground, they blasted huge craters in the ground. Looking around, the ground in front of them was full of holes. It was a sorry sight. Master Lei Gong, the Kurishin are in the Western Barren Territory. At this time, De Wong shouted anxiously. He had followed the Kurishin here before, so he knew a little about this place. From the looks of it, the battle over there has been going on for a long time. Let's go. Lin Ling nodded. He did not need De Wong to lead the way. He had already taken the lead and flew in a certain direction. Amidst the rumbling thunder, he could vaguely hear the sounds of explosions from a great battle. Although Lin Ling could sense the distance, the fact that they could be heard here meant that there was a great battle in the distance. It was intense. Yu and the rest followed behind Lin Ling. Their eyes were focused. They knew that there was going to be a great battle. However, they were also curious about the treasures that the gods were fighting for. With such a fierce battle, the treasures must be extraordinary. Rumble. Not long after he charged forward, a thunderstorm fell from the sky. It was so dense that it was as if it was raining. Looking at the horizon, there were countless lightning snakes shooting down, covering a part of the world. It was a very shocking sight. Everyone, go first. I'll block these thunderbolts. Lin Ling rushed into the sky and activated the Thunder Lock Reel form. The white thunderbolts raged out. With the white thunderbolts attracting them, the colorful thunderbolts falling from the sky were also attracted and kept swallowing and spitting towards Lin Ling. Go! Under the ground, Nanwu Fengyu God immediately led the way and rushed forward. Rumble! Although there were still sporadic thunderbolts falling, they obviously could not affect the group anymore. Lin Ling has turned into a thunderball. Little South and Xueqi looked back at the same time. When they saw the dazzling thunderball in the sky, they swallowed hard. This was because they could feel that the thunderbolts here were extraordinary. They actually carried a touch of demonic aura. Without the realm of gods they could not withstand it. However, Lin Ling not only attracted the thunderbolts, but also attracted the thunderbolts that everyone had to bear. Grandpa God, will he be okay? Yu and the rest were worried when they heard the deafening thunderbolts exploding in the sky. This lightning isn't ordinary lightning. It's divine lightning that was triggered when a powerful expert from the era of the gods forcefully took the Ear Ox cave away. After being trapped in the cave for tens of thousands of years, the divine lightning has been demonized. That's why it's so extraordinary. Nanwu Fengyu God, Grandpa God, don't scare us. Yu and the rest were even more worried when they heard this. Haha, but you are underestimating Lin Ling too much. Not only does he have a great talent in the Thunderbolt attribute, his body is also extremely tough. That little bit of demonic thunderbolts can't hurt him. Don't worry. Nanwu Fengyu God laughed loudly. His words made Yu and the rest sigh in relief. However, when they looked back, they were still quite frightened. This was because under the setting sun in the distance, a thunderball that was 10,000 miles wide was suspended in the sky. Bolts of lightning were wreaking havoc in all directions from the thunderball. It was a spectacular sight. As for Lin Ling, they could no longer see him. Everyone, let's speed up. At this time, the giant ghost also said. After a long time, everyone finally rushed out of the thunderstorm area. When they looked back, they saw that the thunderball under the setting sun in the distance was now twice as large as before. Whoosh! Next, the thunderball was forcefully torn apart by a pair of white thunderous arms. A figure with 10 white wings streaked across the sky and dazzlingly shot towards Nanwu Fengyu's group. Lin Ling is out, let's go. Nanwu Fengyu and the rest smiled when they saw this. They knew that Lin Ling was fine. Then, they saw Lin Ling quickly fly over their heads. They quickened their pace and chased after Lin Ling. What a powerful thunderbolt! At this moment, in the sky, Lin Ling's body was full of colorful lightning snakes. His hands were behind his back, and there were 2 palm-sized thunderballs in his palms. These 2 thunderballs were incomparably powerful and suppressed the countless demonic thunderbolts from before. However, Lin Ling couldn't refine them and didn't have the time to do so. He just held them like this and wanted to find a place to release them. As for the damage that the demonic thunderbolts brought to Lin Ling, it didn't affect Lin Ling. Because Lin Ling's body was strong and he had a lightning talent, it only made Lin Ling feel a slight numbness. Almost there. As he stared ahead, Lin Ling could already roughly see the earth-shattering battle ahead of him. Gods. All of them were god-level experts. Moreover, They all came from different places. There were people from the 4 great deities, people who were the true inheritors of the Miao deity, immortal spirit countries, and even more spirit countries as well as many unknown deities. These experts were crazily clashing against each other, causing the distant heaven and earth to become chaotic. Looking at the center, there was a sacred mountain standing tall on the ground. The sacred mountain emitted a sacred light, and an ancient bell hung on top of it. That's the source of the fight between the gods. Lin Ling's eyes stared at the god bell, but he couldn't see anything because there was a gentle force on the god bell that blocked everything. Why would the god bell appear here? Could it be a treasure that was moved by the gods during the war? But why didn't the demons of the Erox cave touch the god bell after so many years? Also, the sacred mountain below the god bell gives me a mysterious feeling. Could it be that the god bell is suppressing something? What is it? Countless guesses appeared in Lin Ling's mind. Then, he stared at the battle below the sacred mountain in the distance because the battle there was the most terrifying one. It was a battle between gods. There were Eugene, Titanic Crescent God, and Kurishin, 3 familiar faces. There was also Lord Ning of the Spirit Country and an unknown old man. At the same time, there was also a huge demon ox. They were divided into 3 camps and were fighting fiercely. Their goal seemed to be to fight for the god bell. Among these gods, the demon ox was the strongest. At times, he even forced the 4 great gods of the spirit country to join forces. That must be the chief of the demon ox tribe. Lin Ling guessed in his heart. He was very clearly aware that even the current Lin Ling was unable to participate in the war in that world. At most, he only had half a foot of the qualifications to step into it. Chapter 44:11. The battle in that world was also very intense, as if it represented the strongest battle of the present age. Of course, there were also people who tried to rush into the battlefield, but before they could get close, the shockwaves from the battle tore them apart. This meant that not just anyone could lay a finger on that battlefield. Looks like we're too late. What a shocking battle. Lin Ling licked his lips. For some reason, a surge of emotion rose in his heart. The gathering of the strongest gods of the present age. How could he, Lei Gong, be missing? Of course, the battle in the distance was very far away. There was still a long way to go to reach the sacred mountain. At the same time, treasure god Nanwu Fengyu and the others also arrived. When they saw the sensational battle in the distance, they were all shocked. Lin Ling, let's go. Emperor god Zhang Gang also felt a surge of passion. He wanted Lei Gong's hall to join this great battle. How could Lei Gong's hall not be included in the battle of the gods? All right. Lin Ling nodded heavily. He drew a beautiful trajectory in the sky as he quickly passed through the sky. At this moment, many experts from all over the sacred mountain joined in. They were like dragons crossing the river. However, Lin Ling's aura was the most shocking, and it attracted a lot of attention. Who are those people? What ferocious lightning? Looks like Lei Gong. The thunder god is here as well. Many of the 4 gods recognized Lin Ling and were shocked. However, in the end, they could only look up at Lin Ling and watch as Lin Ling flew over their heads. Of course, there were naturally people who wanted to stop Lin Ling. These people came from other places and didn't know Lin Ling. When they saw a group of suicidal people trying to enter the sacred mountain's ancient lands, they would definitely stop them. However, before they could get close to Lin Ling, the lightning around Lin Ling bloomed and wreaked havoc on them. So strong. Who is this person? The people at the rear no longer dared to obstruct them. They knew that another powerful deity had arrived at the old land of the sacred mountain. Kill. After passing this group of gods, the battle in front of them became more intense. Countless mad bulls were galloping on the ground and in the sky. The gods who were relatively weak were immediately smashed into pieces. However, the deities in this area were obviously much more powerful. They joined forces and blocked the charge of the mad bulls. Roar! However, the flesh and blood of the mad bulls that had been beaten to a pulp began to flow like mud, and they turned into a giant with a bull's head covered in rotten flesh. The giant seemed to have a setting sun on its head. With a roar, endless gales surged out, blowing many experts into dust. His strength had obviously reached the level of a mid-stage low-level deity. Moreover, he was one of the stronger ones. Everyone be careful. Someone let out a loud roar. However, as soon as his voice faded, A huge palm slapped over and forcefully smashed that person into meat paste.
He was deader than dead.
This person was one of the 8 new deities of the current generation of the 4 great deities. The 8 new deities of the current generation represented the strongest existences among the deities of the trial takers. They were the ultimate combat power.
However, they could not withstand a single blow from this giant. This caused the hundreds of people present to stare at the giant with a bull's head. They could not believe their eyes.
Other than the 8 new gods, there were also experts from the Spirit Nation, experts from the Immortal Spirit Nation, as well as some unknown experts. However, even though there were many experts present, none of them dared to touch the ferocious ox-headed giant.
Mountain! At this moment, an angry roar rang out. A handsome young man floated over. His hands kept dancing, and a large amount of divine energy turned into divine talismans that floated toward the giant with a bull's head. Upon closer inspection, this person's clothes were very strange. His body was covered with divine talismans, and his every movement carried a surge of divine energy.
"It's Mitsui!"
someone exclaimed. Then, he shouted excitedly.
After those divine talismans floated out, they landed on the giant with a bull's head like a swarm of locusts. They turned into pieces of soil and sealed the giant with a bull's head, turning it into an ancient mountain that was even bigger than the divine mountain in the distance. This meant that the giant with a bull's head had been defeated by Mitsui.
Did you see that?
The 4 great deities are still the most powerful. That is the number 1 among the 8 new deities. God Mitsui.
An old man from the Jojo void shouted proudly.
Looking at the young man floating in the void, his face was cold and indifferent. However, one could still see a hint of pride in his eyes. After all, it was an honor to be able to defeat the giant with a bull's head in front of so many experts. In time, when this matter spread to the Jojo void, Mitsui would be immortalized. Moreover, his name would be like thunder in the ears of the deity nation, and even the deity nation.
Who did not want to be famous? Who did not want to be as famous as the ancient deities?
This was probably the dream of every martial artist.
How did Mitsui become so powerful? Could it be the inheritance of deities?
I heard that he obtained the inheritance of mountains from the inheritance of deities.
Among the crowd, a woman frowned and spoke with a hint of jealousy. She was Goddess Luo. Beside her were Sanling and Qing Mo. They were also very jealous.
Then they asked Goddess Luo, "Who do you think is more powerful, Mitsui, Young Qilin, and Lin Ling?"
They were also one of the 8 new deities. Naturally, they did not want to be overtaken by others. As for Young Qilin, he was already famous and powerful. Therefore, they were sincerely convinced by him. As for Lin Ling, they had followed Lin Ling and witnessed how powerful Lin Ling was.
Therefore they were convinced by him.
However, it was obviously difficult for them to be convinced by Mitsui. He is not as powerful as Young Qilin and Lin Ling. He is not even as powerful as Luli Empress. I guess he is ranked 4th among the 8 new deities. Goddess Luo said calmly.
Bullshit. I think you are just jealous. However, as soon as she said that, one of Mitsui's admirers shouted angrily. Young Qilin and Lin Ling are so powerful.
Where are they now?
This is the most powerful battle of the gods. Even Lord Eugene and the others are here.
However, where are Lin Ling and the others? Hee, they are not even qualified to participate. That's right. More people from the 4 new deities agreed. To be able to participate in the most powerful battle of the gods was an honor and affirmation for them. If Lei Gong could not participate, it meant that he was not qualified. Words are not proof. I know you won't believe me.
However, in the future you will understand.
Goddess Luo did not argue because she felt that it was unnecessary. Moreover, she guessed that if Lin Ling was here, he would not have stayed in this circle for long. He would have approached the sacred mountain because that was the battlefield that belonged to Lin Ling. Crack, crack, crack.
At this moment, cracks began to appear on the mountain that was still and motionless.
Chapter 44:12. Roar. In the shattered mountain, the bull-headed giant appeared again. Its eyes were red, and its aura was even more terrifying than before. Swoosh. It waved its huge arm and grabbed at Mitsui. Its speed was 300,000 world speed. Its strength exceeded 2 million worlds power, and it was mixed with a dense demonic aura. It was like the power of a god. Oh no! Mitsui's expression changed drastically.
It was too late to dodge, so he could only wave his talisman. Boom! The giant arm swept past, and Mitsui turned into dust. However, on the other side, Mitsui appeared strangely. Upon closer inspection, it was actually a talisman that was destroyed. However, before Mitsui could catch his breath, the bull-headed giant waved its arm again. Damn it! Seeing this, Mitsui cursed angrily. Boom! Boom! Under everyone's shocked gaze, the bull-headed giant swept past 5 talismans in a row. This meant that Mitsui had used 5 talismans to save his life. However, the bull-headed giant did not stop there. It's over. Mitsui is going to die. The faces of those who had cheered for Mitsui earlier were now deathly pale. However, at this moment, a brilliant bolt of lightning shot over from afar. The ear-piercing sound wave exploded above everyone's heads, causing many people to raise their heads subconsciously. Then, they saw a majestic man with a 5-colored tail of divine lightning. His wings flapped slightly as he quickly flew forward. How majestic! Subconsciously, many people were stunned. On the battlefield of the sacred mountain, only the real strong were qualified to attract everyone's attention. Many people had done so before, but now there was one more person. It's Lin Ling. Looking at the awe-inspiring man, Luotian and the others had sharp eyes and finally recognized him. Roar! When Lin Ling flew across the sky, the bull-headed giant seemed to have fixed its eyes on Lin Ling. It opened its huge mouth and let out a deafening cry at Lin Ling. Whoosh! The power of the sound wave blew the clouds in the sky apart. Go to hell! Seeing that the bull-headed giant had attacked, Lin Ling, who did not intend to pay attention to it, changed his direction and pounced on the bull-headed giant. He clenched his right hand and the 5-colored divine lightning in his palm struck the bull-headed giant's head. The speed of this attack was incomparably fast. It was as if he was killing a fly. This caused the pupils of Mitsui, who had just escaped, to tremble violently. Then he sneered. You overestimate yourself. Although Lin Ling had wiped out thousands of troops in the battle in the Leigong Hall, after the event, people knew that Lin Ling's tyranny was only because he relied on his treasures. His strength was also very strong. However, Mitsui thought that was all. Rumble! When Lin Ling's palm touched the bull-headed giant's head, terrifying lightning poured down like water and enveloped the giant's entire body. Then, under thousands of gazes, the bull-headed giant let out a painful groan. Its entire body twitched, and it stomped on the ground, causing the earth to shake. Boom! In the end, the bull-headed giant, which was as tall as the setting sun, exploded. Countless pieces of flesh and blood rained down like rain. Silence! Suddenly, the surroundings of the ancient sacred mountain and old land fell silent. The experts from all sides looked at Lin Ling, who flew across the sky, in disbelief. Their eyes were flickering. After all, not everyone was capable of destroying the Minotaur with a single move. This also meant that another indomitable god had arrived. Moreover, his strength was ranked among the top gods of the current generation. Who is this person? Doubtful voices echoed in the hearts of the people far away. As for the experts near the bull-headed giant, they recognized Lin Ling. However, their bodies were trembling, especially Mitsui. He gritted his teeth and watched Lin Ling leave. He completely understood how big the gap between him and the strongest of the current generation's 8 new gods was. Moreover, Lin Ling left after one move. He did not care about the bull-headed giant at all. His attitude was completely different from before. After all, at that time he was only proud. This also meant that the bull-headed giant was not worthy of Lin Ling's attention. This guy is still as strong as ever. Only Luotian and the others weren't surprised. They already knew that this battlefield didn't belong to Lin Ling. If it wasn't for the bull-headed giant courting death, perhaps Lin Ling wouldn't even bother with him. The truth was indeed so. Lin Ling did not have time to care about the bull-headed giant. His gaze fell on the surroundings of the sacred mountain. This was because he knew that the battlefield of the gods belonged to him. The difference between gods seemed to be only one word, but in fact, it was the difference between heaven and earth. The gods were the kings. Who are you? As Lin Ling got closer and closer to the sacred mountain, a gust of wind rushed up to the sky. The one who attacked was an old man, and his strength was extremely powerful. Leigong Lin Ling. Sensing that the gust of wind had turned into a palm that seemed to want to slap him to the ground, Lin Ling growled. Then, The rainbow-colored thunderbolt in his left hand shot out fiercely toward the palm. He sensed that this person's technique was extraordinary. It had a touch of the steps of the gods, and it was related to the wind. This also made Lin Ling suddenly think that this person could be the wind inheritance of the 4 great inheritances of the gods. Previously, he had seen someone use the ancient mountain to seal the bull-headed giant. He also guessed that this power seemed to be related to the mountain inheritance of the 4 great inheritances of the gods. However, that person was not as powerful as the old man who attacked now. Of the 4 great inheritances of the gods, Lin Ling had obtained the fire inheritance. The remaining inheritances were wind, forest, and mountain. Boom! The palm shot out with an earth-shattering force. The palm formed by the gust of wind immediately turned into ashes. Looking down at the ground, an old man spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was pale, and he finally muttered to himself, "Lord Lei Gong." Clearly, Lin Ling's tyrannical attack had thoroughly frightened this old man. This was because this old man was the one who obtained the wind inheritance of the Titanic Crescent god. Back then, the 4 great inheritances of the gods seemed to be controlled by the Kurishin, but in reality, they were all shared by the 4 great gods. In the end, this old man completed a mission and obtained the wind inheritance. Originally, he thought that after obtaining the wind inheritance, he would be a famous character in the 9 continents. If it wasn't for his old age, he could have even become one of the 8 great gods. However, in front of the thunder god, such power was not even worth mentioning. Lei Gong Lin Ling. After Lin Ling's voice floated out, the entire sacred mountain echoed endlessly. It was as if he had rung the bell of the current generation of gods, intimidating all of them. This was because today was the day of the strongest battle between gods. 3 of the 4 great gods of the 9 continents had personally come. Only Lei Gong's grand hall was not present. People also thought that after Lei Gong's death, Lei Gong's vitality would be greatly damaged, so it would be impossible for him to participate in this great battle. However, no one expected that Lei Gong's grand hall would still come. Moreover, he came under the leadership of the new Lei Gong in a majestic manner. Chapter 44:13. As for the endless battle, the eyes of countless people flickered. They did not dare to underestimate Lin Ling. They knew that he was a god that could not be underestimated. With his arrival, this battle of the gods was bound to stir up another storm. It's him. Yes. Seeing Lin Ling descend from the sky, the expressions of the experts in the vicinity changed slightly. Among them were the Saint Primogenitor, the demon sealer of the underworld, the young master of the Ox Demon clan, the radiant golden dragon, Luli Empress, Han Xie, the middle-aged man with the yin-yang face, and some others that Lin Ling didn't recognize. However, one thing was for sure. These people were very strong, second only to gods. And they were proud, they were honorable, because they all had supreme status. But now, Lin Ling had arrived and rushed into their world. Although they were very angry, they silently recognized Lin Ling's status. Of course, there were also many people who were full of hostility toward Lin Ling. Among them were the young master of the Ox Demon clan, Luli Empress, Han Xie, and the middle-aged man with the yin-yang face. Are you qualified to come here?" Suddenly, a disdainful voice was heard. This time, it was the young master of the Ox Demon clan who spoke. Now that he had transformed into a half-ox man, he was very domineering. "Kneel down before our young master." Not far from the young master, a tall and sturdy man with the head of an ox shouted angrily. He obviously knew that the young master was very unhappy with the blue-robed youth because the young master's sweetheart seemed to have some kind of bond with the blue-robed youth. "I don't know how you got her heart, but I know that she must be watching the battle from afar. Therefore, I will defeat you in front of her and make you kneel. I will let her know that I am the strongest, that I am the one destined for her." The young master said again, flames burning in his eyes. Ever since he saw Longyang, he knew that the woman in his life was Longyang. Although he didn't know why he fell in love with Longyang, he felt a very familiar feeling from Longyang. It was as if he had known this peerless beauty in his previous life. Moreover, he was very sure that this peerless beauty's previous life wasn't simple. And he, Niu Shuyang, must have been her protector in his previous life. However, he couldn't accept that this peerless beauty had fallen in love with this blue-robed youth. In his opinion, Longyang was flawless. "Are you an idiot?" Lin Ling also looked at the young master of the Ox Demon clan. The reason why he flew down from the sky was because he knew that there were many people here who would stop him from approaching the sacred mountain. The only thing he could do was to use his strength to prove himself as Lei Gong. At the same time, far away from the divine mountain, a beautiful woman was also watching this scene. She was so angry that she stomped her feet. She was Dragon Mother. This stupid ox, what nonsense is he talking about? Long Yang didn't expect that the young master would say that she liked Lin Ling in front of him. This made her feel very embarrassed. Stupid? How dare you? However, when the ox demons of the Ox Demon clan heard Lin Ling's words, they were all furious. This damned human actually dared to mock the young master as a stupid cunt. Haha, who is the stupid cunt? Let's see who's the stupid cunt. However, the young master didn't get angry. Instead, he smiled naturally because he didn't know Lin Ling. He only knew that Long Yang liked this man. In his opinion, Lin Ling was just like this. How powerful could he be? Young master is mighty. Defeat him, make him kneel down. Seeing that the young master was going to personally take action, the ox demons shouted excitedly. As for the primogenitor and the others, they all sneered. Although Lin Ling couldn't be underestimated, they didn't think that he was a match for the young master. Because they had fought with the latter before, they knew that the young master was extremely powerful. Damned Lin Ling, he stole my Panga strike. However, the young master's strength can't be underestimated. After they fight to the death, I'll sit back and enjoy the benefits. There was also a young middle-aged man who was full of hostility towards Lin Ling. At this moment, he was looking at Lin Ling covetously. Li Xiaoyao is getting stronger and stronger. Among the gods now, no one dares to underestimate him. As for the silent Luli Empress, her eyes were cold. Thinking of Lin Ling, who was almost killed by her, and thinking of the current Lei Gong, she felt as if her heart was being cut by a knife. Because Li Xiaoyao's growth was too fast. After surpassing her, no matter how hard she tried, it was impossible. It was impossible for her to surpass him again. However, now that Lin Ling was going to fight with the young master of the Ox Demon clan, she was happy to see this. She also hoped that the young master would be able to kill Lin Ling. Under the gazes of a group of strong cultivators, the young clan leader's body shook, and a terrifying demonic aura spread out, like a rolling storm, enveloping him. Then, a pitch-black figure continued to grow taller, reaching a height of 10 meters. This figure was the shadow of the demon ox, because one could see the huge horns on its head. Only the eyes were blood red. This was the ox demon real body. According to legend, this was the bloodline left behind by the 7 saints of ancient times. And the 7 saints were once the kings of all demons. Naturally, his bloodline was no small matter. This young master of the Ox Demon clan is a mid-stage low god, but his demonic body is terrifying. He is comparable to a first-grade mid-god divine embryo. And Lin Ling is only an early-stage low god. Although he has the power to fight those of a higher realm, his opponent is the young master. I'm afraid he won't be able to defeat him. Seeing the terrifying aura gushing out, the faces of the people in the distance turned solemn. Because when the young master fought with them before, he didn't burst out with the Ox Demon real body. My son actually used the Ox Demon real body. Could it be that he has encountered a thorny opponent? Looking down at the sacred mountain, the tall Ox Demon clan's patriarch let out a deep voice. He was clearly astonished. Then, he suddenly said, "The 4 great gods of the new generation, Lei Gong? It seems that his strength isn't weak. It's a pity that his foundation is too weak. The old Lei Gong is more like it." From his expression, one could see that he wasn't worried about his son. Roar! Almost at the same time, the young master moved. He seemed incomparably tall, but his speed was incomparably fast. He actually reached the speed of 350,000 worlds. It was incomparably terrifying. It should be known that this was the speed of his movement technique, not the speed of his attack. The people simply didn't have time to react. They could only vaguely see a black shadow flashing by. In the previous confrontation, he really didn't use his full strength. Lin Ling looked indifferently. The divine energy in his body also began to surge. In the next moment, a black shadow appeared in front of him. It was as huge as a giant. A huge ox hoof ruthlessly stomped down as if it wanted to trample 10,000 worlds. This ox hoof was mixed with terrifying divine energy. It had reached the level of 10,000 worlds.
Chapter 44:14. Rumble. Astral winds gushed out, forming a huge shadow of a roaring bull in midair. Moreover, when the enormous ox hoof smashed down, it was as if it had sealed the entire world, and it firmly locked onto Lin Ling, causing him to be unable to dodge. His entire body was like a fallen leaf that was swept away by a whirlwind, and he would be torn apart at any moment. At this moment, the primogenitor and the others sneered. Apart from the radiant golden dragon, no one thought that Lin Ling could withstand that heavy stomp. But at this moment, Lin Ling finally moved. In his body, the 7 great talents began to fuse, and divine energy surged. Now, his realm had stabilized in the early stage low god realm, and with the 7 dantians in his body, the upper limit of his strength was very high. Therefore, with the fusion of the 7 great talents, his fleshly body's strength reached 2 million world energy. His divine energy reached 7,000, and his speed was even more terrifying, reaching 10,000 world energy. Even if it was a mid-stage low god, there were only a few people who possessed such speed. After the fusion of the talents, Lin Ling punched towards the sky, forcefully resisting the full-force stomp of the Ox Demon Clan's junior patriarch. At this moment, the entire divine mountain shook, and dust soared into the sky. The junior patriarch also sensed that a terrifying and vigorous energy suddenly surged up from the ground, making him feel that he could not underestimate it. Rumble! The fists and feet madly collided, and a shockwave swept out in all directions. What? Sensing the unstoppable force, the primogenitor and the others' faces changed, because they did not expect that Lin Ling could erupt with such strength, able to resist the junior patriarch. One must know that they were familiar with Lin Ling's strength, so according to their assessment, Lin Ling should not be a match for the junior patriarch. The junior patriarch was a mid-stage low god, while Lin Ling was an early-stage low god. Although both were powerful, the gap between their realms was still there. Rumble! When the strength of the fists and feet reached the peak, they instantly exploded, and a shockwave more magnificent than the setting sun in the sky exploded. Puchi! Puchi! Not to mention the sacred progenitor and other experts, even those low-level gods further away were instantly turned into ashes under the baptism of that terrifying shockwave. Too strong. It was like a clash between the strongest mid-stage lesser deities. Rumble! At the same time, Lin Ling couldn't control his body and kept sinking. The ground under his feet also rumbled 3 times, as if someone had stomped on it from the sky, and a huge basin appeared. Looking from the sky, the basin was the footprint of a cow's hooves. The cracks were spreading continuously, and Lin Ling was standing in the middle of the basin. However, the young master of the Ox Demon Clan wasn't much better off. Struck by the terrifying power, his huge body was sent flying like a kite, somersaulting in the sky a few times before shooting up into the blue dome of heaven, disappearing under the setting sun. Such a change also gave everyone a huge shock, because they also saw that in this terrifying confrontation, it seemed that Lin Ling had gained a greater advantage. However, Lin Ling's strength was only that of an early-stage lesser deity. How could he use such strength to suppress the young master of the Ox Demon Clan? The sacred progenitor and the others had their mouths wide open. Luli Empress gritted her teeth. She hadn't seen Lin Ling for a while, and yet his strength had increased again. This made her really unable to understand how Lin Ling cultivated. One must know that in the deity realm, one's progress was the slowest. It was already very good if one could make progress in 10,000 years. Some gods couldn't make any progress in 100,000 years. However, Lin Ling's progress could be counted in single digits, not even 100 years. Son! Among the 4 gods, the Ox Demon Clan's patriarch roared, his eyes trembling as if he couldn't believe what he was seeing. Lin Ling is becoming more and more like Lei Gong. Eugene, Titanic Crescent God, and Kurishin had complicated expressions, as if something was stuck in their throats. You were the one who attacked, now it's my turn. At this moment, Lin Ling, who was in the basin, raised his head with a contemptuous smile. He stomped his foot on the ground and instantly disappeared from the earth. Rumble! With his stomp, the basin immediately collapsed, and the soil rolled out like waves. The speed was so fast that even the gods would be thrown off their feet. Lin Ling, on the other hand, had disappeared. Apart from the gods below the sacred mountain, no one could see his speed clearly, not even the sacred progenitor and the sacred progenitor. At this moment, under the setting sun, the ox demon stood in the sky, his hooves trembling slightly. Obviously, the punch from before had made his hooves very uncomfortable.
However, Lin Ling didn't give him time to recover and shot towards him with absolute speed. I don't know why you like her, but that's your business.
Why are you challenging me?
She even dared to spout nonsense in front of me.
Let me tell you, she is my enemy.
A cold voice seemed to have traveled through the river of time and landed in the young family leader's ears. At the same time, Longyang, who was under the ground, was so angry that she gritted her teeth because she knew that it was Lin Ling's voice. I don't care so much, because only by defeating you can I get her. The young family leader gritted his teeth, and his eyes turned red. He roared, 12 ox gods. Moo! The earth-shattering cry of the ox could be heard, and under the setting sun, 12 ox heads that were not smaller than the setting sun appeared. These ox heads were ferocious, and their eyes were like lightning. Suddenly, they roared towards the ground. Then, the heads of the 12 divine bulls viciously slammed into Lin Ling, who was charging from below. My 12 ox gods were left behind by my ancestors. Let alone an early-stage lower god like you, even a late-stage lower god or a mid-stage lower god wouldn't dare to fight against them. From the domineering ox heads, a proud voice could be heard.
How terrifying!
Everyone raised their heads, and they could only see the 12 gigantic ox heads. It was as if this world had turned into a demonic realm, and it was terrifying. This move is very powerful, Eugene and the others said solemnly. With that move, they did not dare to fight against it directly. They did not expect the young family leader of the Ox Demon clan to be so powerful. That might not be the case. However, at this moment, Lin Ling's voice could be heard, and he disappeared. With the speed of 400,000 worlds, before the young master could react, not only did Lin Ling dodge the attack of the 12 ox gods, he even appeared behind the young master. What's going on? The young family leader's pupils constricted, and his huge body was covered in cold sweat. That was because the speed was too fast, and he could not detect it. Splash! Suddenly, the sound of a sea of blood could be heard behind him, and then a sword slashed through the sky. Lin Ling had finally made his move. With the strength of a third-stage innate talent fusion, he was going to kill the young family leader. Ox Demon at the top. However, the young family leader was worthy of being an expert comparable to a god. At this critical moment, the huge ox heads turned, and the huge ox horns were like two knives, and they fiercely collided with Lin Ling's sword.
Chapter 44:15.
He sensed that the young clan leader was still hiding his killer move. The seemingly ordinary horn actually contained the power of the steps of the god. However, Lin Ling's scabbard also had the steps of the god, so he had nothing to fear. Moreover, other than the steps of the god, Lin Ling's other domains were not weak at all. Boom! The horn and the great sword collided. Divine energy, and the steps of the god collided, creating a dust storm that drowned out the sun in the sky. Whoosh! The next moment, a bull horn flew out and smashed heavily into the ground, killing several deities. It was as big as a small mountain. This horn was the young clan leader's horn. Get lost! Lin Ling struck while the iron was hot. Without waiting for the young clan leader to counterattack, he slashed out with his great sword again. Shape-shifting. The junior clan leader couldn't care less about the pain of losing his horn. He roared angrily, and his originally huge body instantly recovered to its original state. However, as soon as he recovered, a terrifying blood sea slash passed over his head, slashing open the dome of heaven. It landed on the highest setting sun in the sky, and then the setting sun appeared. A sword mark appeared. This Lin Ling. This terrifying scene had undoubtedly shocked everyone present. However, after Lin Ling's attack failed, he unleashed his full speed and arrived in front of the young clan leader. His foot swept out like a whip. Bang! The young clan leader crossed his arms and blocked in front of him, but he could not stop Lin Ling's ferocious power. He was kicked to the ground like a cannonball, causing a series of earthquakes. Whoosh! Lin Ling was still chasing after the young clan leader. Bang! 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 On the ground, earth-shattering rumbles could be heard. Everyone could only vaguely see Lin Ling suppressing the young clan leader and beating him up. The young clan leader, who was known for his violence, no longer had any of that. He could only be beaten up like a sandbag. The young clan leader's strength is ranked high among us, but he is being suppressed by Lin Ling. This means that Lin Ling is stronger than us. Even the Netherworld Sealer spoke in a low voice when he saw this scene.
He recalled the first time he met Lin Ling at the Eight Gods' Heavenly Palace. At that time, Lin Ling had defeated him, but he believed that his strength had only been suppressed. Otherwise, Lin Ling would not have been his match.
However, now that he had found a new host body, he could unleash 70% of his strength. However, if he were to face Lin Ling with such strength, he knew that he was no match for Lin Ling. With this thought in mind, the primogenitor's expression didn't look any better. At this point, he had to admit that Lin Ling was stronger than him, and not just by a little bit.
You want to teach me a lesson?
After an unknown amount of time, the violent beating finally came to an end. On the ground, Lin Ling grabbed the young clan leader's neck with one hand and lifted him up high. His eyes were filled with contempt as he looked at the young clan leader.
Your strength. The young clan leader spoke with difficulty.
Blood dripped from the corner of his mouth, and one of his horns was cut off.
He was in a sorry state.
However, at this moment, his mind was buzzing. He still couldn't believe that he had lost. From the beginning to the end, he didn't even touch a hair on Lin Ling's head. Thinking that his beloved woman was also looking at him, he felt incomparably humiliated.
He had wanted to humiliate Lin Ling and let the peerless beauty see clearly who was the real man. But in the end, the one who lost face was him.
Scram!
Lin Ling didn't kill the young clan leader because he sensed that the Ox Demon Patriarch was watching him from below the sacred mountain. If Lin Ling made any move, the Ox Demon Patriarch would definitely attack him. With Lin Ling's current strength, he was definitely not the Ox Demon Patriarch's opponent. Lin Ling even knew that the Ox Demon Patriarch hadn't attacked yet because Eugene and the others were holding him back. Otherwise, the Ox Demon Patriarch would have interrupted him.
Whoosh!
After being thrown by Lin Ling, the young clan leader glided on the ground, leaving a deep trail in the ground before finally crashing into the sacred mountain. The young clan leader of the Ox Demon clan had been completely defeated. Silence!
Looking at the insufferably arrogant Lin Ling, the entire battle of the gods fell silent.
Lin Ling's move once again proved the might of Lei Gong.
Regardless of whether people admitted it or not, they already knew that Lin Ling was qualified to enter the ranks of the four great gods. And this time, he had truly entered the ranks.
Lord Lei Gong.
Almost at the same time, treasure god Nan Wufangyu and the others also flew towards Lin Ling. Then, they stood around Lin Ling to show the strength of Hall Lei Gong.
However, at this moment, no one dared to underestimate Lin Ling. Even Hall Lei Gong didn't dare to underestimate Hall Lei Gong. Because Lin Ling alone was already so strong. If Lin Ling was surrounded by fierce generals, Hall Lei Gong would still be as awe-inspiring as it was in the past. I know that there are still people among you who want to kill me. I'll give you a chance. Come and fight me. I'll fight you one-on-one.
Lin Ling's gaze shifted as he looked at the primogenitor and the others. Of course, he looked more at the Yin-Yang middle-aged man and the others. However, the Yin-Yang middle-aged man and the primogenitor were silent. After witnessing Lin Ling's strength, they didn't have the confidence to defeat Lin Ling.
Damn it!
Especially the Yin-Yang middle-aged man. He was the most furious because he wanted to snatch back Pangu. But now, it seemed that it wouldn't be so easy. Since there aren't any, then let me fight you.
Chapter 44:16. Let's begin. Let's begin.
Colored Glaze Empress didn't say anything else. Between her and Li Xiaoyao, there was actually no need to say anything more. As soon as she finished speaking, the 6 divine beasts' innate talents were displayed. All of them were powerful divine beasts' innate talents. The most terrifying was her dantian. The divine energy in her 6 dantians surged. Although they could not fuse together like Lin Ling, they formed a mysterious formation rune. This formation was not a boundary formation, but a combination of divine beast's blood. It was an innate divine fetus body. With a combination of the divine beast's blood, Luli Empress' innate talents were not as powerful as Lin Ling's, but they were not far off. The difference between her and Lin Ling was that one had 6 dantians, while the other had 7 dantians. What a powerful divine energy! Wow! The primogenitors were standing in the distance. When they sensed Luli Empress's divine energy, they were secretly shocked. All along, they had thought that only Lin Ling was powerful in terms of divine energy. But now, it seemed that Luli Empress was not weak at all.
We have underestimated him,
the Netherworld's demon sealer said. In the previous battle,
Luli Empress was not very conspicuous. But now, it seemed that he was wrong. Linling, I admit that you are very powerful. But I am confident that I can defeat you. A black lotus appeared beneath the colored glaze female empress's feet. This black lotus was constantly emitting black light, and it actually turned the nearby sky into darkness. In the darkness, she was like a fish in water, and her strength increased slightly. This move should be taught by Eugene. Seeing this, many people muttered to themselves. Now Luli Empress was an early-stage lower god, and Lei Gong Linling was also an early-stage lower god. No one knew who would be more powerful in their battle. Of course, most people were optimistic about Linling crash. At this time, Luli Empress opened her hands. Using her enormous spirit essence, she controlled the black lotus beneath her. The petals of the black lotus began to peel off, but they turned into black lotus flowers that drew a beautiful trajectory and shot towards Linling. Luli Empress was well aware of Linling's abilities. Therefore, she did not display her talent. Instead, she used the mystique that Eugene had taught her. But Linling's complexion didn't change at all. From the endless black lotuses in the distance, he could feel the power of divinity erupting from them. This level of strength was not weak at all. It should be noted that even many mid-stage lower gods might not necessarily possess 6,000 divine energy. Bang bang bang. The endless black lotuses revolved around Linling, forming a world of darkness around him. Among them, the largest black lotus suddenly appeared above Linling's head and ruthlessly pressed down on him. On top of the black lotus, Luli Empress's long robe fluttered in the wind. Her expression was pure and holy as if she was a bodhisattva. "Come at me!" Linling shouted. His left hand shook violently, and he slapped toward the sky. Boom! This slap was mixed with terrifying energy, and it actually caused the black lotus to be unable to smash down. Lotus blooming step by step. Luli Empress's complexion didn't change. Step by step, lotus flowers bloomed under her jade-like feet. It was very beautiful, as if lotuses were blooming with every step she took. And with every step she took, the energy from her divine embryo would be suppressed. "Is that all you've got?" However, under the huge black lotus, Linling's lips curled into a cold smile. He could sense that Luli Empress had already activated 7,000 divine energy. Unfortunately, it still couldn't cause any harm to Linling. Scram! Then, Linling's grey robe shook, and the small lotus flowers around him were all sent flying. Then, they exploded in mid-air and turned into ashes. Only the huge black lotus above Linling's head was still intact. However, people also saw that the huge black lotus didn't seem to be able to pressure Linling at all. Whoosh! At this moment, Linling pointed his sword, and the sea of blood roiled. Not good. Luli Empress, who was on top of the huge black lotus, was shocked. Although she already knew that Linling was extraordinary, she didn't expect that her full strength couldn't cause any harm to Linling. The gap between them was too big. It was so big that she felt humiliated, as if Linling was pitiful. She was unwilling and angry because she didn't expect that after killing Li Xiaoyao, she would end up like this. If she had known, she wouldn't have harmed Li Xiaoyao back then. Heavenly Silkworm Divine Thunder. Seeing that the sword of killing intent had pierced through the huge black lotus, the colored glaze empress let out a low shout. Golden lightning appeared on her body and turned into a golden silkworm. It was very awe-inspiring. When the silkworm appeared, the sea of blood that was shooting towards Luli Empress paused for a moment. Retreat! Although this pause was very short, in a battle between experts, even if it was less than a 10,000th of a second, it was still a very long time. Therefore, the glazed female empress moved her feet and floated into the distance. However, even though her reaction was very fast, there was still a fierce murderous aura that passed through her temple and left an inch-long sword wound on her cheek. Fresh blood was dripping down from the wound. Soon, the colored glaze empress stopped in her tracks. She stretched out her jade-like hand and touched her cheek. Her face was filled with shock and coldness. Li Xiaoyao, although I already knew that you were very strong, I only know how strong you are after fighting with you personally. In the distance, Linling stared at Luli Empress's head, where the silkworm was still roaring. He said calmly, "Perhaps, this is our last bond." This was because that silkworm was Linling's innate talent, the heavenly silkworm godly thunderbreaker. Back then, Luli Empress and martial god Qilin worked together to seize everything from Linling,
and Luli Empress obtained this innate talent. This innate talent had obviously helped Luli Empress a lot, allowing her to become stronger step by step and finally become the Empress of the 9 provinces. However now, this innate talent had been surpassed by the divine fetus. Whether it was Luli Empress or Lin Ling, all that was left were memories. Previously, it was because of the heavenly silkworm godly Thunderbreaker that Lin Ling was in a daze. Otherwise, that sword strike would have killed Luli Empress.
You're right.
Luli Empress nodded. This heavenly silkworm godly Thunderbreaker is our shared memory, and you have already killed our memories. Now, don't hold back anymore. If you have the chance, you must kill me, and I will do the same.
I will.
Lin Ling raised his sword. I know that no matter what, I am not your opponent, so for today's battle, I have already prepared a backup plan.
Chapter 44:17. Bang.
Luli Empress spread open her fingers and suddenly clenched her fist. The sword was in her hand and she pointed it at Lin Ling.
Dual polarity 3 swords.
She looked like a goddess as her long skirt danced in the wind.
She looked very majestic. What's going on? A human turned into a sword.
The primogenitor and the other experts frowned because the sword had been shot out from them. As for Lin Ling, his eyes flickered. He was familiar with the aura emitted by the sword, so he immediately knew that the sword was transformed from a human. It was the middle-aged man with the yin-yang face that he had fought not long ago. This person had turned into a sword to help Luli Empress. Lin Ling had already experienced how powerful this person was. If not for his recent increase in strength, he might not be a match for this person.
Help me!
However, this was not the end. Luli Empress stretched out her left hand, and the sound of a heartbeat came from afar. It turned into countless sparkling lights and shot toward Luli Empress. When they reached her left hand, they began to quietly condense and turned into a shield half the height of a human. This shield was made of crystal, and a heart was sealed in the center of the shield. However, if one looked carefully, they would see that the heart was beating slowly. Moreover, the invisible ripples that spread out could affect the heartbeat of the gods. Of course, this shield looked holy, but if one carefully sensed it, one would notice that it was emitting an evil aura.
This guy is also participating.
Lin Ling stared coldly at the shield and knew who had transformed it.
Naturally, it was Han Xie.
Whether it was Han Xie or the middle-aged man with the yin-yang face, they were all from the Spirit Kingdom.
Luli Empress was also from the Spirit Kingdom.
Therefore, it was normal for the 3 of them to join forces to kill Lin Ling.
What's going on?
However, the crowd did not see this change clearly. Instead, they felt that Luli Empress's aura was rising steadily. She actually possessed the strength of a mid-stage low god. They have become so powerful all of a sudden. It feels as though 3 mighty early-stage low gods have fused together. Moreover, any one of these 3 early-stage low gods is only slightly weaker than Lin Ling. In this way, the originally one-sided battle has turned into a twist. Many people whispered and were inexplicably excited. This was because they did not want this battle to end too quickly. They wanted someone to suppress Lin Ling's advancement.
Li Xiaoyao, come and fight.
With the sword and shield in her hand, Luli Empress's strength had merged with Han Xie's strength. I know that you had a conflict with Lord Yi, but your strength is only on par with Lord Yi. Now that Han Xie and I are here, let's see how you're going to stop us. With a sword in her hand, the colored glaze Empress was like a flying immortal as she tore through the sky at a terrifying speed.
The lightning-seeking form.
The black and white sword was surrounded by lightning. It was the lightning of the divine realm. And this sword's power of divinity actually reached the rank of 15,000. Even the primogenitors would not dare to easily take on such a sword. Of course, this was to be expected because this was not the divine energy of Luli Empress alone, but the divine energy of 3. Bang! 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 Wherever the flying sword passed, a loud boom could be heard. Under the ground, the hearts of thousands of deities were beating wildly. Some of the weaker deities even exploded and died. As for the stronger deities, they clutched at their hearts, their expressions extremely unsightly. This was Han Xie's innate gift, which affected millions of beings. Han Xie's innate gift was the heart of God, which was incomparably powerful. However, this kind of heartbeat did not affect Lin Ling much. But this did not mean that he was weak. The combined attack of the three was so terrifying that many people looked at Lin Ling, wanting to know how Lin Ling would deal with it.
Lin Ling can't deal with it,
someone suddenly said. It was the underworld demon sealer. 15,000 strands of divine energy, that's only the most basic. The Glaze Empress can still increase her divine energy. Moreover, her defense has also increased. This time, Lin Ling will have a headache. The Sacred Generation primogenitor laughed.
Clang.
At this time, Lin Ling finally attacked. The blood sea roiled, and a sword shot out from the sea of blood, colliding with Luli Empress's sword.
Chi. Chi.
Sword tip against sword tip. A terrifying storm was created. Behind Lin Ling was the blood sea storm. Behind Luli Empress was the wind lightning storm. Both of their robes fluttered, and their hair danced wildly.
Lose for me.
However, Luli Empress's expression was incomparably ferocious. Suddenly, she increased her divine energy, and this power came from Han Xie. At this moment, the divine force in the sword had an additional mysterious force, causing the divine force to reach 18,000 strands.
Gotcha.
Lin Ling's sword was bent. Even if he had the power of 2 million worlds and the fusion of his 7 great dantians, he still couldn't defend against 18,000 strands of godly power. After all, he only had 7,000 divine energy. If not for his strong physique and divine energy, he could not even block 10,000 divine energy. Therefore, his body was constantly pushed back. As for the power of the killing steps, it was blocked by Han Xie's shield. Of course, this was not blocked by Han Xie alone, but by the three of them. The three of them were now as one. Lin Ling can't block it. This tyrannical scene caused the sacred mountain to explode. No one expected Luli Empress to be able to suppress Lin Ling. One had to know that Lin Ling defeated the young master of the Ox Devil tribe. Lin Ling's grey robe should be at its peak state, but he still can't block Luli Empress's sword. Lin Ling is going to lose this battle, and this is a battle to the death. This means that Lin Ling is going to die. Some of the people who hated Lin Ling sneered coldly at this moment. Below the sacred mountain, the gods were still fighting fiercely, but they were also watching Lin Ling's battle. After seeing Lin Ling being suppressed, Eugene, Titanic Crescent God, and Kirishin's expressions changed. Although Lin Ling is not on our side, he is still one of the 4 gods of the 9 continents.
Eugene, you can't let him die here.
Titanic Crescent God suddenly said. Although he did not like Lin Ling, his mission was to fight against the will of the world. In front of the will of the world, Lin Ling was more of a comrade in arms. This was Titanic Crescent God's principle. Back then when he forced Lei Gong to his death, he also felt terrible, but there was nothing he could do about it since they were on different sides. Lei Gong can't die here. If he falls, it will be a great loss to us. Yu Shen nodded in agreement. She had the same idea as Titanic Crescent God, which was to focus on the matter, not the person. Tian Liuli, stop. Then, she immediately sent a voice transmission. Chapter 44:18. Go to hell. Therefore, not only did her sword not stop, but it also stabbed out crazily. Rumble. Under this sword, even the sky was cut open. It was so terrifying that the combination of wind and thunder stirred up the whole earth, causing countless gods to lose control of their bodies and tumble in the sky like straws. Looking at Lin Ling's sword, it was now bent like a bow and could break at any time. Very strong. The three of them were indeed terrifying when they joined forces. Luli Empress, the most powerful woman in the 9 prefectures void. Han Xie, the former trial-taker of the 4 great gods, later became a powerful genius of the spirit nation. The middle-aged man with the yin-yang face was almost invincible among early-stage lower gods. He was an old monster who had cultivated for millions of years. When the 3 of them joined forces, even a mid-stage lower god would have to retreat, not to mention Lin Ling. Li Xiaoyao, it's time for our bond to end. At this moment, Luli Empress's eyes were bloodshot. She then looked at the crystal shield in her hand. Han Xie's face had also appeared, and he was also smiling evilly.
Boy, my treasure is not so easy to take.
As for the middle-aged man with the yin-yang face, at this moment, he was bursting with monstrous killing intent.
Not necessarily.
But at this moment, Lin Ling, who was at a disadvantage, finally broke out a powerful trump card. He held the sword with one hand and raised the other hand high. Then, he looked at the front and slashed down fiercely. This action was very ordinary, even a little ordinary, but it carried a force that surpassed the divine steps. It was like the great Tao of the void of heaven and earth, giving people the feeling that it was the creation of heaven and earth. This was Panga's attack, splitting the sky. Lin Ling's physical strength doubled in an instant, and he slashed out fiercely. What's going on? In the eyes of the people, Lin Ling's action was very slow and even looked very ordinary. But for some reason, they had a strange feeling that it was as if the great Tao was simple. The simpler something was, in fact, the more complicated and mysterious it was. Lin Ling, are you still going to stubbornly resist? Luli Empress shouted as she watched Lin Ling's palm descend. Although she was also surprised that Lin Ling still had some tricks up his sleeve, she was confident that no trick would be able to stop the three of them. Han Xie, stop him. Lin Ling has diverted a portion of his strength to counterattack. Now is the best time to kill him. The yin-yang sword also let out a fierce roar, and as soon as his voice fell, the crystal shield rose to the sky to block. Crack. However, Lin Ling's palm was even sharper than tyrannical Song's sword. It was so domineering and powerful. After clashing with the crystal shield, he actually split it apart. Crash. The shield exploded into pieces, and blood gushed out. The god's heart also cracked open, and the endless evil energy began to dissipate. Han Xie was completely dead. Almost at the same time, the strike continued to descend, but it shocked Luli Empress and the yin-yang sword's middle-aged man. They were terrified, and even a little panicked. They had never seen such a terrifying move. It seemed to have no divine energy, but it had the power to uproot mountains and rivers. Lord Yi! Luli Empress immediately shouted angrily, and the sword in her hand tried to block the strike. Unfortunately, it was useless. Crack. The dual polarity 3-ask sword was also instantly broken, and a painful voice sounded at the same time. It was the yin-yang sword's voice. Then, he roared. Could it be that you have successfully cultivated the divine ability of the stone tablet? He turned into a yin-yang energy and appeared in front of Luli Empress. His eyes were trembling, and they were filled with disbelief. Lin Ling had only obtained the stone tablet from the iron box not long ago. Generally speaking, it was impossible for him to cultivate such an ancient divine ability. However, Lin Ling had succeeded in cultivating it, and it was as if he had turned into Pangu. This made the yin-yang sword's middle-aged man explode with anger. This was because such a powerful divine ability should have belonged to him. Swish! However, while he was still in shock, Lin Ling's palm was still falling. It seemed to be very slow, but it carried an ancient rhythm. It was as if a world was suppressing the yin-yang sword's body, making it impossible for him to escape. He could only watch the strike fall. Swish! The yin-yang sword's attack split the yin-yang sword into two. He was unable to block it, and blood spurted out. Then he fell to the ground and died completely. Bang! 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 At this moment, the hearts of countless people were beating fast, caused by shock. Because Lin Ling's move was too overbearing, and it actually split 3 deities. Swish! The palm began to slash toward Luli Empress, and it fell on her shoulder, causing her to be seriously injured. However, just as it was about to split her in half, suddenly, a palm came and grabbed Lin Ling's palm, preventing him from slashing down. Lin Ling, she is the battle strength of the 9 continents void. She can't die here. The person who appeared next to Luli Empress was Eugene. At this moment, her hand was trembling because it was very difficult for her to block Lin Ling's move. She realized that the move was not terrifying because of the physical strength, but because of the will, as if it was the will of an ancient deity. Get lost! Lin Ling shouted angrily, but he also realized that Eugene had blocked the heaven-splitting slash. As expected of the strength of a deity. Lin Ling, stop. At this time, the voice of the Titanic Crescent God floated over. Who do you think you are? What right do you have to stop me? Chapter 44:19. This matter is indeed a little strange, but I believe that Tian Lioli will give me an explanation. As for her being from the Spirit Nation, I will not believe it no matter what, because I watched her grow up. She is loyal and devoted to the void of the 9 continents. Yes. Hearing Lin Ling's words, Eugene said firmly. Haha, then how do you explain Lei Gong?
He was one of the 4 great gods. But what happened in the end? Therefore, there was no need to deceive oneself and others. Yes. Hearing this, Lin Ling laughed mockingly, making Eugene speechless. Because, she said that she watched Luli Empress grow up and would never betray her. However, Lei Gong was once one of the 4 great gods, so wasn't he also a host of the world will? I know that it is useless to explain, but I believe her. After thinking for a while, Eugene was still firm in her opinion. I know that you and Luli Empress have a fated grudge, but at this time, we should unite against the outside world. If the world will is defeated by us in the future, you don't have to do anything. I will personally deliver Tian Lioli to you. This is my promise. Also, stop trying to sow discord between us. You should focus on the world will and not choose to fight among yourselves. Of course, no matter how you try to sow discord, I will always believe Tian Lioli. Also, I know why you have become like this. Because of Lei Gong's death, you hate the void of the 9 continents. You hate us, the 4 great gods, so you are venting your anger on us. Yes. After saying this, Eugene brought the heavily injured Luli Empress and flew towards the sacred mountain. Seeing this, Lin Ling's eyes turned cold. If not for the fact that he was weaker than Eugene, he really wanted to give this idiotic woman 3 slaps. Although among the 4 great gods, only Lin Ling had seen Luli Empress appear in the Spirit Nation, it was obvious that Luli Empress had asked Han Xie and the rest for help, but Eugene still did not believe it. Lin Ling, Luli Empress is Eugene's proudest disciple. It is normal that she does not believe it. In fact, if there is no real evidence, it is also difficult for us to believe it. After all, Luli Empress is one of the strongest gods under the 4 great gods. It is difficult for people to believe that she is from the Spirit Nation. At this moment, the Black Deity sent a voice transmission to Lin Ling. He looked at Lin Ling with a guilty expression. Because he knew that if it wasn't for him, Lin Ling would absolutely not let Empress-colored glaze off. Time will reveal a person's heart. Lin Ling did not say anything else. Everything was as Kurishin had said. He had let Luli Empress go because of Lei Gong's death. Lei Gong had done Lin Ling a favor. For this reason, Lin Ling did not hesitate to put aside his personal grudges. This was because Lin Ling believed that if he saw Luli Empress again, no one would be able to stop him from killing Luli Empress unless the experts of the Spirit Nation were present. Let's go to the sacred mountain. Ignoring everyone's gazes, Lin Ling led Lei Gong's experts and flew towards the sacred mountain. Looking at Lin Ling's departure, the primogenitors remained silent. Even though they didn't admit it, they had already acknowledged that Lin Ling was above them. Damn it! Even so, they were still cursing in their hearts. Especially the underworld demon sealer. He gritted his teeth and said, "If I had unsealed all my strength, I would not have been humiliated like this and be looked down upon by a junior." One had to know that he came from the underworld and was proud. However, ever since he lost to Lin Ling, he had not won against Lin Ling. This was unforgivable to him. However, the primogenitor had also lost to Lin Ling. When they first entered the Ji Aerox cave, Lin Ling had also trampled heavily on the primogenitor's heart. And now, this trampling was even more intense, reaching straight to the primogenitor's dignity. Rumble! At the foot of the sacred mountain, the battle was still ongoing. The strongest gods from all sides were madly clashing. In this group of gods, apart from the Kurishin and the others, Lin Ling only recognized Lord Ning. The other gods were all unfamiliar to him. One of them was an old man covered in lightning. His strength was very terrifying. The lightning around him made Lin Ling feel like he was an intermediate god. An intermediate god, apart from the era of gods, was rarely seen in the current era. Apart from him, there was also an ox giant. His strength was also extremely fierce, but Lin Ling could guess his origin. This should be the Ox Demon clan's patriarch. As for the others, an old man holding a bottle was also very powerful. His origin was unknown. As expected, once the treasure appeared, those hidden old monsters all came to the surface. Lin Ling thought to himself as he landed at the foot of the sacred mountain. There were only 5 people following him. They were Treasure God Nan Wu Fengyu, God Emperor Zhang Gang, Giant Ghost, Young Qilin, and Saint Guyi. Treasure God Nan Wu Fengyu and the other's strength was unquestionable. Young Qilin was the strongest trial taker in Lei Gong's hall back then. His strength was not undeserved. As for Saint Guyi, he was the weakest.
However, with a divine blade in hand, although he could not compare to a god, he was at least barely qualified to come here.
Of course, the experts at the foot of the sacred mountain did not pay attention to Saint Guy. Instead, they were all looking at Lin Ling. After the crazy battle before, they also recognized Lin Ling's qualifications. Although they felt that Lin Ling was still inferior to them, the gap was not that big. At least, he was not an ant. Fight, fight, fight.